Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
And the pitch to Swanson, drilled in the air to right field and deep. Back goes Fairchild near the wall. That ball is gone. 3-run homer. Dansby Swanson. Cubs lead 5-0.
Mookie mashed. And the Dodgers get one back. That's number 28 for Betts. Lead pushed back to 2.
Sweden. He hits a high drive in the center field. That's hit well, but back all the way back to the wall. It's gone! A home run! Thomas went back and stopped as if they were going to catch it. And then he really was saying, I don't have a clue. I don't see it. And it hit the back wall of the bullpen out there, and the Giants have tied the game.
You talk about, I need to get my butt in shape. So Coach has us running after the guys and making sure we know how to run to the ball. But it's great. You know, one of the key words, the process and developing, right? So the only way you can develop is actually get meaningful reps. And whether it's teaching in individuals, whether it's half line stuff, whether it's full team or 7-on-7, like a lot of guys are getting a lot of reps in a lot of places, so it's really good.
It's dark and gloomy outside, but it's sunny and bright here at the H&H Chevrolet Studios. Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers, Coffee and Cream. Good morning to all you out there. Good morning, DB.
What up? How are things?
Hey, things are things. I had a nice $1,000 vet bill yesterday that I had to pay after Molly had 5 teeth pulled, and I feel so bad for her, man. She's in such rough shape, and you can just tell she's walking gingerly. She doesn't really even want to. She doesn't want to open her mouth. It's like getting your wisdom teeth out as a person, and well, I don't know how many people get 5 teeth out at one time.
What's her real age?
9.
She's 9er.
Well, and the vet told me yesterday too. She's like, yeah, you'll probably have 1 or 2 more of these by the time, like,
how many
kicks
teeth
the
does
can.
a dog have?
I don't know, but she apparently has more than most dogs. That's what they told me.
She got a few extra.
That's
like, a condition. I can't remember what it's called.
I'm like,
mongoloid toothitis or something like that.
Toothitis.
It's something. I don't know.
I'm cool. I wasn't arguing. I laughed at the toothitis.
Mega canine salivius or something.
Oh, yeah. Salivius.
Okay, maybe I'm making up the last words, but there is a condition where you have too many teeth.
At least you had some right words in there, like canine, like okay,
or
like
mega,
that sounds right. Now you're on the Mega Million train. Nobody won that,
no,
so you're like, I need to get to the store or gas station.
I don't know if you know this,
ticket.
but I'm a Latin guru. I understand root words. That's terrible in spelling bees. Still traumatized over the second grade.
You traumatized over the little bell that they ding
over misspelling the word chief, which just about everyone in the continental U.S. over the age of 8 should be able to spell.
Hey,
not your boy though.
How many people should be able to spell massage?
Several.
I couldn't spell that word.
Well, they're just some words.
I was in 4th grade.
Yeah.
Couldn't spell that word.
Are you gonna be all right?
No, it's still bothering me.
Now. I wonder, so my old school, the one thing I remember after missing that word in the spelling bee was my librarian, Mrs. Solo. I've kind of told this story in passing before. She had these ladybug chairs where when it was your birthday, you got to sit on the ladybug chair or where you were a special reader. And obviously they're very, very small, especially in my memory, like as you revisit goofy stuff. I wonder if like me that knows what me knows now, like, I probably would look at her and be like, that's not that cool. I'm not really. But
you were competitive.
I'm not really interested in sitting on the ladybug.
You were competitive, so you wanted to be the guy.
I mean, at any point in the continental, in the world, like, were ladybugs cool?
They were.
It's a lot of weird things.
They were an insect that people thought were safe, right?
Like, a lot of weird things I gravitated towards.
I can snuggle up with this ladybug.
I'd look at it and be like, yeah, that's not all that sweet.
It's cute.
And then
it's cute. Ding dong.
We know what she's saying to it.
No, I don't.
We had a couch in.
Hey, that's my little homegirl.
That was something similar to that. Like, if you did something well, or I don't know how you got rewarded for I can't remember, but you could sit on the couch for a class period.
Yeah.
And
she was so kind, though. It was like, I think she made it very inviting. Very inviting. I drive by my school, my old elementary school, not quite a bit because it's right by my mom's house. And
it brings you back to the good old days.
Well, it's gotten such a facelift. You know, it's like, wow, looks a lot.
Fresh coat of paint.
Yeah, the east wing still looks roughly the same, but the first part looks like Chicago Bears Stadium, kind of like a spaceship.
Oh.
So 2 of my 3 school, well, I went to 4. Lothrop, my 3rd grade, got a facelift too. So Hurrdat facelift, my 3rd grade school facelift. My middle school, Morton, like they built on like the back wing. They used to have like 27 portables. I'm glad they got rid of those because that's really not really conducive for learning. And my high school got a facelift, so everybody's gotten renovated. My high school has 22 roundabouts. So if you're ever in the area of like 80th and Crown Point, you're going to go in
22.
I'm exaggerating by like maybe
but
only by like maybe 17. There's quite a few roundabouts.
Too many to count.
Over by
yeah, my schools didn't get facelifts. My grade school, not so much.
Well, your high school doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah,
right?
that one died early. Rest in peace.
Well, you don't want to resurrect the dead, as Zoe would say. Dead.
You seem very hurt right now.
My iPad is dead. It's what? Dead. All right, Zoe.
All right, Shane.
Man. This little girl got up last night. I don't even know what time
like
it was.
Like a dead ant?
She heard dead ant. Yeah, she heard the thunder crack.
I sleep right through storms.
Her little bebopping knock-kneed self. It's like, oh, God.
Hello, friend.
What was she doing?
Oh, man, I can't even do it. I don't without her being here to defend herself. Yes. Like,
what is that?
What is going on?
This smells delish.
So, you know.
It's freaking bats.
Your boy. Your boy's been up a while. I like
Did
the
you
rain.
stay up?
I like the rain.
The rain's terrible.
The rain's terrible.
Well, Shane, you live in an apartment.
I've had to
If you
drive.
lived in a
Last
house, you'd
4
love the
days I
rain.
drove to work. It's been that way.
Did you hear him this
include
morning?
Sunday.
He's like,
Because it was awful at 5 o'clock on Sunday.
It's like 4 days in a row I've driven here and it's just been miserable. Too much rain. Too much rain.
I'm like, rain.
Rain doesn't bother me.
I forgot we had our parents' meeting last night at the high
It
school.
can rain at other times during the day. That'd be fine.
And we had to be there relatively early. So I planned on a nice slow smoked pork butt, which I don't even like, right? Like it's not even in like my top
I love pork butt.
16 things to put on the grill.
Give me a
That's
little
safe.
pulled
Yeah,
pork.
it's certainly not top 15.
It's
And
ridiculous.
but you know, of course, TikTok.
Had you on the pulled pork train.
Yeah, that and Amy Just had me on the TikTok train. I was like, wow, snark.
That thing wet.
Yeah. And I see her a lot. I think I need to holler at her about that. But listen, so it was supposed to be a slow process. And about 2, it dawned on me, whoopsie, you have to be back at the high school at 6. You know, Caleb had his little friend over, was coming for dinner. And, you know, Mike is walking around like a zombie, like he hasn't eaten since the apocalypse. And I had to rush it. So I had to wrap early. I had to get it off. I usually pull it at like take it off at like 165. It was like 145. I had to fire up the other grill because, you know, the Traeger, you got to smoke it for like 13 days to get any smoke flavor unless you use a smoking tube. So it was a total rush job, but apparently it was pretty good. I didn't like it, but I'm the last person you should ask about pulled pork because it's not my jam.
Not your cup of tea.
No, we had barbecue Sunday in Lincoln. It's okay. I wish I had their smoker. If I had that bad boy, you may not see me. DB's not at work. He's not
What's he
at
doing?
Westside. He's out
He's just heating up the smoker.
Hey, I'm 100%
What's in there? Cherry wood?
Listen, I follow this guy on TikTok. My man Les BBQ, rolling on oak. I would smoke my brains out, and I don't mean chief. That's all I would do.
Hey,
Picture
yesterday,
you smoking
Yeah,
or rolling.
they see me smoking.
they
They eating. I smoke cod. Who smokes cod? I do.
Well,
For fish
people
tacos.
smoke salmon all the time, so
it's
any-
such
any
a
fish, I could see
muscular, dense fish. It was I could eat that out of a bowl, just a
big bowl of
bowl in
smoked
a
cod.
dead dog serious.
Over at Family Fair, and this is something that
I was
our
in
guy
there.
John
I was
Livingston
sitting
would
there
send us.
yesterday, and the lady said, "Oh, I haven't seen you in a couple of days." I was like, "Man, that's the longest." I think it was like 7 days without going in there.
99 cents a pound for chicken drumsticks.
What'd she say?
Did the same thing. I got the thighs too.
What'd she say?
Oh, no look pass. Greasel to Casey.
I just wanted to play
I'll
that.
see her Saturday. We're doing they got a cool little series they want to start with the network.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we got some post practice.
Are you narrating 9 pages?
No. When is that? That's the 13th, right?
That
I should
is.
remember. It's my buddy's birthday.
That is
I was
Nebraska Public Media.
I was telling my mom about that. She was, she said, "Hey, didn't you do such and such?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Right there.
I got a call. And the lady, she's so nice from Nebraska Public Media. She always gives me a heads up on when they're releasing, because of course my mom supports Nebraska Public Media, right?
Well, and supports you.
Well, no. See, it didn't used to have anything to do with me, but it's they get a lot of donors and people that support because it's public media, right? It's supported by the people. And so apparently they have lots of nice, good talks. And so when we got off the phone yesterday, she wanted to text me the lady's name that's so nice to her, because I said, that's good that they're checking on you, making sure you're okay. And she's like, yeah. And like 10 minutes later, she texts me the lady's name. So maybe I'll say hi. When I go there, people, it's off peak hours, right? It's usually at night for Big Red wrap up. But the last couple times I've been there in the daytime. And I went upstairs for the first time in that building in 48 years. He's Gavin, my buddy, or the big wig.
Never,
like,
ever,
hey, do you want to
ever,
take the elevator? And I was like, you have one?
How long has that building been standing?
Oh, since well before I was in school, because it's right on East Campus, and I lived on East Campus.
Okay.
And I tried to take Caleb through the campus on Sunday, because he's putting together like city size and college towns. I'm telling you, he's super naive. Like, this dude lives in his own little world. So he's like, yeah, I've only seen like 2 parts of Lincoln, when we play at Pius, when we play at East. So he only really knows the high schools. He doesn't know the city.
And where the nearest Little King is?
So we found Verzal's old establishment, the bar.
Okay.
And I don't know if he thinks Verz walks on water, but I think he's like this.
He's pretty close.
Mythical, tough figure. He's always running his mouth.
Zeus.
And yeah. So I go, hey, I said, you want to know how Maddie made all his money? That little itty bitty place right there on 16th Street. And Caleb looked at it. It's all wooden, fenced in, and it's kind of for outdoor events. Not super small. And he goes, really? He probably thought about that. He's always thinking of ways to print money. I go, yeah, you got him. You got him nailed 2,000%, man. So it was like, I don't know where I was going with that story, but
it started with Nebraska Public Media, and what we're referring to is In the Deed, the Glory Memorial Stadium, which DB narrated, but it features interviews with T.O., Eric Crouch, Trev Alberts. It's the newest local sports documentary that follows the evolution of the stadium. So check that out Sunday, August 13th at 7 p.m.
Yeah, I don't know why people like my voice. I hate my voice. I've said that for years, but it's okay. It's some twisted joke guy plays on me.
I think that's like, what do they call it when when you say you hate something, but in turn, like, it makes somebody love it?
Yeah, I don't know.
What's the word I'm looking for? You say it enough that all of a sudden people start to like it because you hate it.
I don't know. Reverse psychology.
Thank you. Thank you. Couldn't get there.
I don't listen. That was a total guess.
Thank
too.
you.
It's not Alex Trebek, R.I.P. Whoever it is.
Yeah,
what is that is for 1,000.
That's what I was going for. Michigan Lance, let's go to him on line 1-888-638-4876 if you'd like to get involved on the show. Lance, good morning.
Good morning, guys. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, yeah, we got you.
Hey, can you hear you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let me get a double burger with cheese.
A double burger with cheese.
Yeah, the name is Hardball. Oh, I'm back, fellas.
Oh,
I'm back.
Here we
How
go.
you doing?
Ooh, this smells delicious.
When he walked in the arena in Indy, you could just tell it felt different. My man oozes confidence. Like it is, he's unbelievably confident.
It's ridiculous.
It's weird because it comes across in him kind of like being aloof, but he knows it. He knows exactly what he's doing.
I just
exactly.
I wouldn't want to make him mad. That's all I know.
My man is defiant. He's defiant. It's like you want me to. No, not doing it. No. No.
Hey, he has Bud-like qualities, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
You know, like you said, if you want to poke at him, he's ready for it.
Yeah. And a lot like Bud too. They can hold grudges forever.
Yes.
Years.
Yes, exactly. That's why I made the comparison. You know, and well, people don't give Harbaugh credit. Remember when he first got hired? Those first couple 2 or 3 years, he was the face of the program.
Yeah.
And then once he got it to where he wanted it, he took a back seat. Like everybody thought he was arrogant and this and that. No. I just need to be until I get my team the way I want it to be. I need to be out here. So you guys won't look at what's out. You know what I mean? Now he got it. Hey, when he always lets people speak. You know what I mean? He hardly talks in press. You know what I mean? And
he doesn't enjoy it. You can tell he's very, very brief.
Right, but remember though, he did talk more in those first couple years. Yeah. So you know that's why I appreciate him and give him a lot of credit on. You know, people thought he was crazy. Like, all right, man, and
you like him because he's a Michigan man. Leave it alone.
Well, that's not the only. Hey, man, he was a Bear also. I mean, there's a lot of things alike.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's unfortunate.
He said, "Hey,
yes,
I was
sir.
at the Jaguars training camp last week on Saturday. Hey, man,
that was DP.
People better pay attention to what's going on down here.
Hey, Andrew. So full story. 2 weeks ago, we were talking about over-unders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he told me Jacksonville's, and I was like, what? I think everybody's on the Jayville hype train.
No. Here's why it's not a hype train, DB. It's just like Tom Brady and Belichick when they had their run. Look at the division. See, people aren't paying attention. Like, look at their division. They got the head coach and Doug Peterson. They got the quarterback. They got a front seven defense. They got receivers. So if you take in that account along, Doug Peterson's a Super Bowl champion. People forget that.
Well, you won't let us.
Hey, man, the division, man. The division matters. And you're telling me that AFC North, they're going to knock each other out. Like, everybody can't make it to the AFC North.
South.
So, South. No, the North.
You're talking about with the Ravens still.
Browns. Yeah,
well,
exactly.
you could get 3 there easily.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, you can get 3. But then they're probably going to play each other in that first. Somebody's going to play each other in that first round, and then Jacksonville will get a home game because of their division. So I'm telling you, man. I'm looking more at the division and what they have. I'm not saying they're the Chiefs or anybody, but look at their path to get to an AFC championship game.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
You know what I mean?
You've been all the way converted.
The entire AFC West made it there last year.
Who's that?
That was Shane.
Oh, yeah. No, what did he say?
Don't blame Shane.
Don't blame Shane.
I think he said something like the entire AFC West made it there last year, coming from our Raiders fan off to the left.
Oh, yeah. The overrated DBs.
Hey, let's not have Sean Payton do it.
Yeah, we don't need to be dealing jabs now, right?
How about Hackett say?
Hold on, let me call you and apologize.
How about how Hackett say he broke the code? Like he's like, we all live on glass houses. Stop running your mouth, Sean.
What is the code?
But I like it though. Keep that banter going, and then Aaron Rodgers, keep my coach's name, and stop. Hey, Aaron is about to get exposed too. You guys trust Aaron Rodgers to lead a group of kids to a championship?
Who's you guys? Mike Sauter?
Hey man, or the media, whoever. Like that guy is not a leader. Like he didn't lead that team in Green Bay. That was Charles Woodson and some other guy. Like who's the receiver guy?
Of course, the Michigan man.
Hey man, you know what I mean? Like I'm not Aaron Rodgers. You know I'm not an Aaron Rodgers guy.
You said the little guy who was terrible. Are you talking about Randall Cobb?
No, the other receiver. No, he's terrible on TV. Not terrible as a player. That was it Greg Williams? What was the name?
Donald Driver? Oh no, Greg Jennings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Greg Jennings. Oh, he's horrible on TV. But
wow.
But yeah, like those guys. He was a good player, man. Wow. He was one of the.
What are we talking about?
I don't know. Harbaugh, great. Jacksonville, great. Everybody else, horrible.
Hey, I'm still a Bears guy, Andrew. Hey, I'm still optimistic, man. I'm still excited.
Hey, I'm optimistic too, but I don't know if I'm Jacksonville optimistic for the Bears.
It's exciting.
You guys can't even figure out what position group is doing what testing. In Chicago.
Hey, but he's ready to go though. Hey, he's in the best shape of his life, and watch him be a Pro Bowler.
Oh, let's go!
Oh my!
Hot Take Tuesday.
Yeah.
Hey, the guy came in great, ready to go, man.
Hot take Lance today. What else you got? Nebraska winning 8 games. Is that where we're at?
Yes, no, not at all. But
he said,
I don't know. No. I don't know what they're gonna do. You know what I mean?
Is Nebraska winning 5 games?
Man, I'm not into that, man. I don't know, man. I'm not into they'll win this, they'll win that. I'm not.
Unless it's Michigan. you know Michigan will be winning the Big Ten, though, huh?
Oh yes, I definitely know that. Yeah, well, I definitely know that, and Ohio State's not going to get in their way. So yeah, I definitely know that's going to happen. Wow. But I am worried about JJ McCarthy. I told you I got question marks.
Everybody else loves him.
I know. See, I'm not on that hype train. You got to show me this year, man. He's got to make some plays in crunch time, not when people are wide open and. Nah, man.
This dude said you got to show me. Now he's Missouri Lance, right?
Okay.
You don't know who you want to be today. You just,
hey man, I'm multifaceted.
Jacksonville Jaguar Lance. Appreciate the call. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
I know how to play Uno. I can tell
you. Wow. Here we go. Now we're setting jabs. Okay. Fine. Hang up on this guy. Michigan Lance, have a good day. First of all, I hadn't played Uno, and at least I'm 49 years old.
I like how you said hang up on this guy, and then you were like, have a good day. Like you went back to your heart.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I want to be a nice guy.
Did you just skip 3 right there?
Bro,
no, he reversed it back to you.
Or did you draw 2?
Okay. All right, let's cut it out. Okay, I don't spend my –
killed everybody.
Exactly, Art. They tried to kill me. It's a lot of little ridiculous things on Uno cards, okay? And just because I don't know what I'm doing doesn't mean I couldn't have figured it out. I hadn't played in 40 years.
It sounds pretty wild to me.
40 since I played Uno.
Like a wild 4?
And why do you have so many cards? We're like shuffling 2 decks. There were like 212 cards. How are you even supposed to shuffle those?
You guys were playing 2-deck Uno?
Just draw 2. You'll be fine.
It was what was in the box. It had never been opened.
Yeah, there's a lot of cards. What do you start with, 7 or 8?
Yeah, you should have seen me deal 1. 2.
Let's take a break.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Everything's on my mind. I mean, to how we do meetings, to how we're arranging walkthroughs. Again, when you're getting so many reps, you're dealing with so many guys. So you got to be able to know how to watch the film so everybody can see, because you want everybody in tune. You know what I mean? Our base D&D, am I doing too much? Am I doing too little? How are we trying to simplify things like that? So, again, right now it's more operation. You know, are we doing things the right way? And then as we get deeper into camp and we get more into a rhythm, then we're going to go more specifically. Okay, he's here on third down. He's here on third down. But right now it's just let's operate the right way. Let's get him to know how to run to the ball, play with dominant contact, play with Husker speed, and get him going.
That's defensive coordinator Tony White. After day 2 of fall camp, we will get into our thoughts on the audio from practice yesterday. We'll get into the MLB trade deadline a little bit. Oddly, how many teams has Rich Hill pitched for? Take a guess.
He's, what is he, 46? 45?
Something like that. And he just got traded to the Padres.
14.
15 teams.
So
he's pitched for half the league.
So when he was a Dodger, I think he was like at 11.
Do you think you could name all the teams Rich Hill has pitched for?
No. Heck no.
How many think you could get right? And you have to go you have to get as many right in a row. How many think in a row you could get right? I mean, you have half the league to choose from.
Before I missed?
Yeah.
I don't know, 5 maybe.
Okay, go ahead. Let me see it.
Dodgers,
Yep.
Pirates,
Yep.
Red Sox.
Yep. I mean, you can count the Padres.
Padres, Reds. Is he a Red? Was he a Red?
He was not a Red.
Ended
with 4. This man has pitched for the Cubs.
Oh, yeah. That's who I should have started with.
The Orioles. The Red Sox.
Didn't I do that to myself, Shane?
You did.
I don't need. I can do bad all by my lonesome.
Oh, it'll be a drop.
He pitched for the Indians in 2013. This is from 2005. He's pitched for 15
So did the
teams.
Indians just wave the white flag?
Maybe it was 14. You may be right with 14.
I
I
meant
see
the
Red
Guardians.
Sox on here twice. Yes, the Guardians.
Like it's over?
Well, they're definitely a
And
loser
listen,
at the trade deadline.
don't try to cancel the show because I said Indians in surrender.
I think
Let's
I said Indians.
Get
too,
it
but
together.
It's also because on the Wikipedia page I'm reading, that's what's listed in 2013.
Man, that's
so. He was on both LA teams. He pitched for the Yankees, the A's, the Twins.
I don't know if you know this, but the Yankees lost again.
Oh yeah, did they? So did the Cardinals.
Dude, 11 out. 11. The New York Yankees.
And, with a winning record.
Man.
Don't they still have a winning record?
Yeah, 55-52, I believe.
Mets, Red Sox, Pirates, Padres are the back end. Oh, and the Rays. Can't forget about the Tampa Bay Rays.
Yeah, my buddy.
That's Rich Hill for you.
He just had a little boy. And,
43.
I wanted to make fun of him because he's the same age as I am. I'm like, yeah, enjoy that, Chris. He's a huge Tampa fan. Huge Tampa fan. Dude's just all in.
Ever since they made it last year?
He's probably the biggest Rays fan I know.
Since 2022?
No, he used to live there, like since their inception. He was going to games. He was a
Devil Ray.
Yes. He could get
Dontrelle Willis.
He could get tickets for like $12 and sit at the Trop. And he would be with like 4,000 other people. Dead dog serious.
I think I need to poo-poo on the MLB trade deadline more.
Why? Because nothing big happened.
Well,
at least nobody exercised their no trade clause to your team.
Oh yeah, yeah. Who was that? Oh yeah. Let me stay on the Tigers.
Yeah, you go ahead and stay at Detroit, a Detroitonian.
Why am I going to stay on one of the worst teams in baseball?
And why were the Dodgers one of the 10 teams on your no trade clause?
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Maybe
I want to know what the other 9 are.
Maybe he doesn't like winning.
Well, yeah, it's pretty obvious because he went from the Red Sox to now the Tigers.
Enjoy your next miserable 8 years.
Did he win with the Red Sox?
No. I mean,
I should just,
sporadic.
Like I said, I should poo-poo on the trade deadline more the day before because action happens that same afternoon.
Yeah, it wasn't like, Verlander did move to the other power squad, but.
Well, going back home, reuniting after a year.
I get it, where he can get back with his spin rate. And,
well, are the Mets smart or are they stupid?
Well, did you see what they told Scherzer? That
they're in a transition period?
Yeah. So, maybe they know what they're doing.
But when I ask that question, it's more from the stance of, are you smart to pay the $35 million on his contract this year to help the Astros, but you get their number one prospect? Or are you stupid because you're still paying $35 million of this guy's
smart.
contract?
Get it off the books. You were paying it anyway. You might as well get something in return.
Drew Gilbert's a stud.
Yeah, you were paying
He's
it
a
anyway.
stud.
Then that's awful expensive. I think a return, because you got to think the going rate for a number one, even if you call him a 1A in JV. Those guys are making 30+ mil a year anyway. So that was already that was in your budget. you in turn, so that's okay, right? You in turn get the top prospect. So I don't know. A transition year, though, I was shocked.
Well, you kind of have to say that at this point.
Listen, you went from a divisional favorite, a title contender, to a transition year.
At the deadline.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Talk about a group that can't work something out.
So I think when your manager has a knack for being better with younger guys than old, and he usually runs his course, I'm surprised it's flamed out this quickly. Hey, but vote of confidence. We got deep pockets.
Well, I don't know if you saw what the Cardinals said yesterday.
Well, here's who called their shot on middle infielders going to Toronto. Was it Adam? Was it X's and O's?
No, it was
somebody.
A national writer did.
Oh, I thought when he slid into our DMs, he may have said that.
Maybe I missed that.
Well, Lord knows you're like, yeah, that's like my 18th DM in a row.
No, I didn't see it on mine in our group, but
maybe it was
separate because he doesn't like me.
Separate but equal. Google that. Go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, no thanks.
School system, baby.
So,
uh-oh.
The Cardinals ended up saying yesterday,
get up, baby,
that they don't think they'll be good, or at least somebody close to the Cardinals, until 2025.
Yeah, just be patient.
So we're going to keep Arenado and Goldschmidt as Goldschmidt ages out and Arenado gets close to the back end of his deal. We're just going to only be good for 2 years for them.
Hold on for one more day.
Yeah, let's see if they can be a contender next year with all of the prospects they acquired.
What are folks getting in Flaherty?
And what are the Orioles getting? They are getting a pitcher who has lost velo on his fastball.
Yeah, so I thought that it's not funny now, but remember in preseason, I was like, hey, are you a little worried? You're like, oh, yeah, kind of. I was like,
well, because I didn't think we had an ace.
I was like 3 or 4 miles an hour. It's early. The weather will start to warm up. Never came back.
Nope.
Because remember that outing, I think he gave up like 5 in the first. And I get it. It was just spring training. But I was like, yeah, that's a little concerning.
You should be able to get 3 outs.
Yeah. And
being the so-called number 1.
And I think that was like his last outing or second to last outing. And he got
destroyed.
He got Kim Shell peppered.
Yeah. Well, the Baltimore didn't want to give up any of their 8 prospects in the top 100. So that was a bummer.
I saw him Wednesday and Thursday, Shane. Guess what he had on? Mr. Tiemann. A shirt and tie, baby.
Low-key.
Always.
Low-key, the Marlins getting Jake Berger and Josh Bell, adding some bats to that lineup.
Yeah, well, where was their bullpen last night in the 8th and 9th when they're coughing up a 1-1 lead late in that game to lose 3-1 to your Philadelphia Phillies?
They aren't mine.
Well, you better adopt somebody over there. I'm just playing.
What, it's like Alcantara?
Yeah, well, he pitched well. He's been better. He's been better as of late. Seems to have maybe found it.
Well, Verlander, too. I looked at his last 7 starts, 1.49 ERA.
Yeah, you eating that 92 mil if he gets 240 innings?
I hope not. But we'll see. We'll see what they what ends up shaking up. There were a ton of other deals, smaller deals. DeYoung, as you had mentioned, went to the Blue Jays. Pham is a D-back. Lorenzen's a Philly.
Wow, say that slow.
Pham is a D-back?
Yeah, so Pham. He's a D-back. Go slow. Enunciate. Onomatopoeia.
Hedges a Ranger?
Pardon? No idea what you just
Hedges
said.
is a Ranger. And as DB got to watch yesterday, Eduardo Rodriguez.
Yeah.
What the heck?
Access denied. Yeah, going to a contender? Just not for me.
Whatevs.
I'm a small market guy. Don't knock the hustle.
You want to get into some practice takeaways when we come back?
Yeah, because my man T. Knighton took the podium.
Yes, he did. You're going to share what?
The gentle giant.
What did we say? You were going to hang out with him? What was the prompt yesterday?
You said you'd hang out with him.
No, Ravi and Sam did. And then you're like, I could vibe with that.
I would vibe with T. Knighton.
All right, let's talk about practice next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Well, because of the way we're going to play on defense, we're going to be relentless, and guys are going to have to run to the ball no matter where the ball is. We're going to attack in waves. We're going to play a lot of guys, so everyone has to be in shape and playing 100 miles an hour. So we have to train that way. You have to practice that way, and practice is everything. You know what I mean? So everything, the way we're going to do things in the game is the way we're going to do it in practice. So those guys are getting themselves ready.
Okay, quickly before we get into practice talk to wrap up the baseball talk, the Omaha Storm Chasers fell to the Bats 3-2 last night, but a long series there on the road. They'll be back home to take on the Iowa Cubs next week from the 8th through the 13th. So give the Omaha Storm Chasers a shout. Go attend a game. They are fantastic. You heard from Coach Knighton there, one of your favorites on this defensive coaching staff.
Correct.
And I think there's a lot of respect for him, too, just based on what we heard from Ty Robinson on Monday, what we heard from Blaze yesterday, and what we heard from Roquan yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just a lot of respect for that man up front.
I think, and the funny thing is, and I think I said this yesterday.
All my troubles.
I said, I'm not typically one of those guys that like fawns over like pictures and workouts, and but body types do matter, right? And I joked about Snodgrass and all his muscles. Look, did you see the guys? Just humor yourselves, folks. Take a look at some before and afters of guys taking the podium this year to last year. Ty Robinson looked like he was.
Best shape of his life,
with no question. Look at Blaze Gunnarson's body. Ruquan Buckley isn't there yet, but he's significantly better than he was.
Ruru likes Ruquan.
So Buckley was interesting. So 2 years ago, I had this conversation with my main man, Jay Foreman. We were shooting the breeze, talking about young guys, because Jay's been on this kick for about 2 or 3 years now. How he just was floored that that the staff couldn't find ways to use guys for 5, 10, 12 plays a game, right? How they weren't taking advantage of the full roster. So he and I got into this discussion on some potential guys. And at this time, this was a young Buckley.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like, I'm like, man, he shows some flashes. Jay was like, yeah, you got to find a way to play him in a system where he can just go. Like and he kind of described his personality traits. And then last year when camps first started, and we were up sitting in the stadium, and he's like, man, he's too big. He's too big. He's got to come down in some weight, right? Because what I said was good about him last year, he can't really do this year because of his size. And then
sometimes bigger isn't better.
And for Nebraska, none of it was any good. I'll be curious to see how it affects Gabe Ervin, because he's significantly more muscular than he was last year. And full disclosure, I'm a little hesitant because I've been through that, right? Where you feel like you have to look a certain way to take the pounding. And, I went from 217 to like 208, and I felt light years better, but I felt like getting nicked up. I want to be a little bigger, and bigger wasn't good for me. But we'll see in the running back room. But I say all whatever to say, the guys, I can't get over how sleek and fit they are. Right. The first thing it's probably like the third thing that I remember Coach Rule saying to Caleb. He was talking about a particular player, and he wanted to remind him how important it is to be in elite level shape. And he was going through these analogies. That's between them two. But I remember driving back, and I said, I'm not. I said, I don't just like Rule because he thinks like me, but I like Coach Rule because he thinks like me, right? And he says, well, what do you mean? And I said, how many times over the last 10, 12 years do you hear me talk about being in elite level shape? Like when there's just something that happens to you psychologically when you're fit. It just does. Oh. And I tell our guys, didn't matter what school I was at, you got to train in such a way where time doesn't matter. And
I remember feeling overly confident because I was in
fit. You were fit,
great
right?
shape.
So like, and Coach Knighton's not blowing smoke either, because whether you have to go back to the side, you call in a new group, sprint your ass in. Don't come in here picking daisies, lollygagging. Back to the sidelines, do it again. Second group up, first group up, third group, whatever group. Wherever the ball is, incomplete, sprint to the ball. Don't like that rep. Do it again. You can either do it right the first time or two, or you earn the right to get in excellent shape. So it's not, and they're winning either. They're like the players, they're getting the players where they want to regardless, right? You can do it on the first time and do it right. That's a win for the coaches. Or it can take you a couple of times and you getting a little bit better fitness. Coaches are still winning. So I suggest doing it right the first time, but either way, he's not. I'm totally validating him here. He's not just saying that to be saying it. That is exactly what they do.
Mm-hmm.
If it is not at a certain, how many times did you hear the word standard yesterday?
Oh, plenty of times. I heard that a lot on Monday too.
The standard, the standard
I
is
1% better every day more than anything.
They all
yesterday.
talk. They all talk the same.
But see, that's what Coach Rule instills in you.
One of the guys, he's supposed to keep time, didn't like the effort given, and they were within a play or two of the stations. So kind of ran, told, hey, let's start over. Let's make sure that we maximize during this time period, reset the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, at some point, it's still early, but at some point, you'll just do it because it feels like that's what you're supposed to do.
Feels right.
And you won't do it because it doesn't feel right.
Is a lot of that what they were referring to, like when Buckley was referring to the mobility cards?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like, so we spent some time over the last couple of weeks. I won't say weeks, week for those calendar counting on when you can talk to people and when you can't. Their sports science is huge. Recovery, movement, taking preventative measures with soft tissue stuff. Like it is, remember like as I'm kind of stuttering, January when I said, he just told me he doesn't like to leave anything to chance. Anything means anything. Like doesn't like to leave anything to chance. He's just constantly trying to stay on the cutting edge of science.
Right.
And it's not just the physical or the practical applications. Sometimes it's neuro. It's just, it's definitely a job.
Well, and you mentioned how everything trickles down to the players, not leaving something to chance. It's crazy when you hear these players talk about, and we've been talking about Ruquan a lot, so I'll keep him as the example here. When he was mapping out the day for the defensive line, and whether it was, you go to practice, then you go eat, and then there's this film session that the D line expects you to be at. It's mandatory for you, but the coach isn't going to be there. Like whether he's there or not, like they're still going to have this film session. Then you go back and you practice again, you eat, and that basically ends your day. But that film session is where I really kind of like wanted to lock in on, because it's something that is on the itinerary that it's kind of met with an asterisk, like, oh, you can do this or you don't have to do this, but they make it a point to keep themselves accountable and say, no, we have to do this, because they themselves also don't want to leave something to chance. When they're watching Michigan, Minnesota, whatever the tape is, it's Minnesota for week 1 for the example, when they're watching this tape, they're making sure they know every single step of that line, the plays, where they like to move, where the holes open up. They're making sure that they can nitpick, micromanage every little thing on that film, so that when week 1 rolls around on the 31st, there's nothing left for chance. And it's just amazing how everything started from the top early, and it was just words, because that's what it's met with right now. A lot of the fans, I see a lot of fans on different pages saying like, well, they can talk the talk and they walk the walk. Right now they're walking the walk, and they're proving it by the way the players are talking about it and going about their days.
The attention to detail is not just it's not overstated, right? It's not exaggerating. There are a couple of drills that we do a variation of one. We need to do it. I obviously took a couple things from them because they have everybody involved. They got the 2 defensive guys and the guy that has the ball. Like they're using their top guys, right? So I'm like, oh shoot, a 3-for-1 here, and it's a quick drill. And I remember guys are going. Generally speaking, the drill was it's a leverage tackling drill, okay? And it's little things. And so it's going so fast, you may miss what real leverage is, right? Because if you're on the sidelines and you're coming from the middle of the field and a defender's trying to split you, what leverage means, getting the top shoulder, all these little terms. Coach Rule like hopped over. He came from like way far away, and he's jogging over, and he wants to see the drill because they got started right before the horn blew on the transition drill because they wanted to be ready to go at the horn. And it was just a little subtle thing, inside arm versus outside arm, and he said, he's like, he said the player's name, and he's like, hey. Eyes, right? Eyes. Don't give me this little short arm stuff. Eyes. The player gave him a thumbs up and an air dap and got back in line. I'm just like, you start getting people to do that when you correct it. Listen, a thumbs up and an air dap, like a little fist bump, and kept it pushing. And I'm
small words. No words, really. Eyes.
How about guys running past coaches just to give them high fives for no reason?
Mm-hmm. That's the culture,
man.
Brian Christopherson up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio. Here is Husker 24/7 senior writer Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a circus act.
Brian Christopherson.
Well, I mean, that's pretty interesting.
Brian Christopherson.
I kind of enjoy that.
Here is Brian Christopherson.
Yeah, I hear it. I hear it on the sideline when I'm speaking to some or I'm watching the play, and I can hear it in the background. Hey, watch this ball. Hey, this play. Hey, you're supposed to be over there. They're lining themselves up, and you need that with the way we're practicing, and because you don't have all the coaches in one area, you have all the coaches spread out, right? Coaches trusting everybody. We're all trusting everybody to do their job. So it's a reinforcement from the players, and the first people you hear, Luke, Bullock, Reimer in the back end yelling at guy Blaze back there coaching the guys as well, and that's total team buy-in right there, which is going to help in the long run.
That's the player accountability we were just shedding some light on in the back end of the 7 o'clock hour. Coffee and Cream, Damon Benning, Andrew Rogers on ESPN Radio here in Omaha, live on Twitter, live on YouTube, the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page. It is really coming down outside.
It's going rain.
It is coming down hard. I saw some lightning strikes during the break, and now all of a sudden it seems like a monsoon.
I'm
monsoon season.
supposed to be at this retreat at 1.
Hopefully it's
indoors.
Hopefully you're not playing
out in Ashland. You okay? I will beat your butt at Uno. All right, I'm gonna go
one-on-one. Let's
I'm gonna go study up.
I think Uno's the one card game I'd actually have you in.
I need a glossary. Like like a little
just
map,
the directions?
like a key. Yeah, this card means this.
Well, we'll open up the box and I'll give you the little white pamphlet in there that has Chinese, French,
such a hater,
Spanish.
Sorry,
all of it on there.
All right, I'm telling you, man.
1v1.
I'll learn. I'll learn.
Well, I know, because if I make you get competitive about something, I probably will lose.
Yeah, I was getting drubbed. And I got up to talk to one of the other coaches. And, it was actually when I got back up to talk to Coach McGuire. And so another one of the coaches played my hand. And even when I sat down, Caleb beat him, and he goes, man, you might be the most unlucky person I know. I thought it was just you. It probably is, but you jinxed your own cards. I was just like, I was going for 5 minutes just because you lost sitting in my seat. Didn't have anything to do with me.
Oh, man. All good things.
Why? And why? I'm going to figure. You watch. I don't have any free time, but when I do again,
I'll stop by
tonight late. I'm gonna figure out Uno.
Yeah, I have Uno Party waiting to play.
Dude,
I don't know if that's
junkie?
the same as Uno, but I have Uno Party.
Are you a junkie?
No, I have like 3 sets of board games at my house, and one of them's Uno Party. I think I got it as a White Elephant gift or a Christmas gift, something like that.
Dude, we played a Family Feud game.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that game's fun.
Dude, it was unreal.
That game is really fun.
I mean, and it was competitive, and I didn't like it because I didn't get to play. They picked.
Were you Steve Harvey?
So they put Guess who was Steve Harvey?
Micah.
No, we played it in Sunday in Lincoln.
Oh, I'm sorry. Matt Rule.
Nope. One other guess.
Young or old?
Not telling.
All right, then I'm going to guess Caleb.
Terrence Knighton. I thought you'd get that right away, given his.
That is.
He didn't start out as the Steve Harvey, but Coach Rule was so flustered that the game wasn't going the way.
Coach Rule was Steve Harvey.
No, somebody else was Steve Harvey. They weren't doing it right, and he kept saying, "What? Like, do you not watch Family Feud? What?" You could hear him in the back, right? Because defensive parents were on one side, offensive parents were on the other, and there were barely any defensive parents.
It depends on what Family Feud version.
That's how they separated it.
Hopefully
and
not the one from the 70s.
Coach Rule
kissing everybody.
He went over to T Knight and he goes, "Get your guy, go do the job. Like he's out of here." And I just was like, even in a game that he's not playing, if it's not going the way that he wants it to, you're out.
Yep.
So T Knighton took over. But it was the actual game. Like you could hear the dings. Like I want to download the app. They were running it from like a computer. Oh, it was hilarious.
I just want to be at all of those meetings just for the games. I don't want to go to the practices. I don't need that. You can go to all those things. Just let me go to the game portion.
Do we really not have BC
No,
yet?
BC's here.
I would have guessed BC.
Are you producing? Say BC. Listen, I got to take these off for a second.
I saw the thumb up.
I gave him the thumbs up like 5 minutes ago. Brian's here.
I saw the thumb, but we were talking about Family Feud. Oh, hey, BC.
Hey, I was the whole thing. I was just hearing the Feud talk, so it's all right.
So,
did he lobby the bird?
I don't know. Did you hear that whole thing about Family Feud and all that jazz?
Yeah, it's a show that's well watched in this house. I get mad at Family Feud though because there's always one of the five answers on the board is completely ridiculous. Like no one's gonna
right.
People are sending me Uno images.
Yeah.
BC,
because there's only 8 different cards.
Shut up, Drew Down. I don't need the details. BC, let me ask you 2 quick questions. Number 1, are you good at Uno?
No. Haven't played that. I haven't played it in like 10 years at least.
Could you pick it up today and be okay at it?
After like one game or so, you're best to keep me to like the really simple stuff like trouble or shoots.
Man after my own heart.
Trouble and shoots and ladders.
So, BC, there's like parents and they separated them from the recruits. So we're playing like real Family Feud. Like it looks like the game board on the TV monitors right there on the 3rd floor. And here's the question. We asked the top 100 people to name 6 former Nebraska head coaches. There were 6 answers. Who were they?
There were 6 coaches that were named?
Yep.
Solich, Osborne, Callahan, Pelini, Riley, Rule.
Yes to Rule. Yes to Osborne. Yes to Pelini. Who are the other 3?
Solich wasn't. You said?
Solich was. He was 4.
What was the question?
Name 6 previous Nebraska football.
I would have thought it was just the last.
You got it. Probably Scott Frost, right? Did you say Frost?
Dude, when he wasn't on there and he got buzzed, like, and the crowd was like, what? And Coach Rule got up and acted like he was getting on the elevator.
At least he wasn't sliding down a handrail.
Like that's the kind of environment, BC, that they have going. It is something else over there.
Was Jumbo Steam on the board?
Nope. The 6th was
Devaney?
Bill Glassford?
Bill Callahan.
So was the last.
Yeah. He was 6. He was 6. Could you believe it's not what I would have done, but I mean, fudge. Take
Sounds like a fun game.
Dude, it was awesome. It was
a lot of smiles.
Yeah. One of the parents was from BC. One of the parents, I can't remember, someplace far away. She got picked, and they asked her to name the consecutive sellout streak. And you can look right out of the windows on 3rd floor, and it's like all over the stadium. But you're not supposed to help. And she like said something in the thousands, and everybody laughed. And I was like, this poor lady has no idea. Like, she's just like, this is totally new to her. Like, I don't know. But anyway, BC, sorry to waste your time, Brian.
BC, okay, 2 days of practice of fall camp so far. What is your number one, your very, like the very best takeaway that you have from the first couple of days? What is the top on your list?
Well, I don't know. It's a real brilliant takeaway, but I mean, just the fact that they split squad the boys over there was interesting to me, because back in Indianapolis at media days, you heard Rule talking about, he had this line about, we want to evaluate so thoroughly this fall camp that when we have our kind of who our main guys are for week 1, ideally those are your main guys in week 4 and 5. So you're not going back again and being like, oh, we messed up here, we messed up there. And you're sort of reshifting your lineup again a month into the season. And he connected to that to, how do you do that? Well, you got to pile up reps, so you actually give everybody a chance, and you get a chance to see what everybody's about. So you have evaluation that's made of something. And so when you saw what was taking place the last couple of days, and at least probably the first few days of this week, it all computes as a smart plan of like everybody on that roster has to feel like I have at least a shot to show where I'm at and, what my positioning is within this team. And it gives the coaches, it's not easy what they're doing. Like Tony White came in the other day for the post practice session. And I mean, he's just like drenched in sweat because Rule's telling him, like you're running after the ball. Like I want you coaches running after the ball. Like we're getting these guys to run and the coaches are doing it too. And Tony White's like, I got to get in shape. Like he's like he's feeling like he's a player out there. So that's what's been going on over those 2 to 3 hours at practices. So I like the concept. You see some of Osborne's wisdom, not that these guys couldn't come to some of these ideas on their own, but you can tell that Rule takes to heart the things he has heard from past Husker coaches who are on that family feud board, who have had goal. And the thing, Coach Osborne talks about is you got to give these guys reps. You got to have multiple stations going and all this and that. And you're seeing that at play already.
Yeah, it's funny. We on a little side note, I was talking to Brant, his son, just kind of the two of us over there one day, and he mid-sentence he breaks cadence and he's like, look at my dad over there running. He's playing offensive line. He's gonna be sore tomorrow. Like it's just like, but you're right though. It's funny because I heard a couple of words over the last couple of days and they actually matter. We've heard standard a lot and elite. And the players are saying it, the coaches are saying it, and it's strange, BC, because Gunnarsson said yesterday, it starts at the top. The coaches hold the other coaches accountable. Then those coaches hold us accountable. Then we can hold each other accountable. And I thought it was interesting that a player noticed a coach holding other coaches accountable. Am I reading too much into that, or was that like an interesting tidbit?
No, it is.
Do players typically notice that?
I wouldn't say a lot. There's been a few guys who have maybe brought it up with this particular staff, but it just speaks to that how obvious it is with Rule. What's going on here, and how much the coaches have a responsibility, the assistant coaches that is, to answer to their head coach too, and the players see that. And I think there's that's a good deal when everybody's on edge a little bit. They feel a little bit uncomfortable because when it gets to those games and you're in a tight spot and everybody's going crazy in the stadium and it's at 3rd and 6 or whatever type of moment, you've got to have sort of this background of having been through some stress, like having someone in your ear that wants you to do this or that, and how you respond to that. And I think they get a good lesson in that throughout their practices by the way that Rule holds them accountable. And I know the coaches, they always talk about how much they appreciate that. And that's one thing I talked to Rule about his young coaches the other day, Dvoracek and McGuire, because they were on our under 30.
That was that's a good man. You guys, well done, BC.
He said, Rule said, the important thing as a young coach is you got to be able to be corrected. Like, I mean, that's the biggest deal. Like, if you got to be obviously able to connect and build relationships with your players, but then you've got to be able to take correction and then offer it, to your players. And he said, when I was a young coach, I got that from Tom Coughlin. You're sitting there and you're. That was one name he mentioned. He's going to hold you to the fire about why did you do this? What was the reason for it? And you got to come up with answers. And so within his staff, he's always looking at the guys in his building. And they had to make a coaching change last week, but it feels like Matt Rule has like a 3 deep of coaches. Like on his desk, like I would guess of like, this guy's ready if we need to throw him in here, because I've seen how he responds to certain situations. He is a guy who can take correction and then move forward with it and process it well and then do it right the next time. And so it was just interesting because I'm glad that 24/7 Sports had 2 of the Nebraska guys on that list, because I don't think there's anybody in college football that is putting more faith or has more confidence in his young guys than Matt Rule. And the thing is, I don't think he really views them as young guys. He just views them as guys who are ready. He's seen that they can handle it, so let's go.
I'm having a hard time discerning whether he enjoys more pouring into the players or his staff. They're kind of interchangeable, right? I mean, you see that, right?
Yeah, there's well, I mean, I think there's great pride in, watching, like, Garrett McGuire is an obvious example, but Rob Dvorak's got a great story. I mean, Rule said he was a guy who, when he was a player, he thought like he could, if he had stayed healthy, be like a NFL type player, and then he suffered a.
It's like it wasn't sepsis. He got an infection from a surgery.
Yeah, he had an infection that lasted for several months, and the way Rule explained it, he was like, with his Rob Dvorak's mom, like crying and like they're praying, like, I hope he makes it.
Yeah.
It was one of those where you're a little bit worried about that sort of thing, and Rob comes out of it and gets into shape where he maybe could have played again. I got the sense. I'd have to talk more to Dvorak about this. But Rule saw, this guy knows the game where he could be a coach, man. Like, let's get it going. And I mean, so he's like a young guy who's in college, who's already getting a start in coaching. But then Rule brings him to Baylor as like a quality control guy. But then he tells him to go to Lehigh for a couple years, be a position coach somewhere else, get that under your belt. And so people got to keep that in mind. There might be some guys who are on this staff who you'll see like in a year or two, they go somewhere else. And you're like, why did that happen? Why is that guy like at Northern Iowa now?
Yep.
And they're still in the tree is what I would tell you. Like they're still part of the community and could come back later, because I think there's a rhyme and reason to all that stuff. And once you're sort of around what he has going, if he believes in you, you're part of the family, and you might be back in the family at some point. So I think people should keep that in mind as they think about this staff. And I mean, even when they made the tight ends hire with Josh Martin, he brought up in the interview the other day, Christian Ellsworth, who's a young guy on this staff. He's in his early 20s, and you could tell like he was giving him a thought, about like where he can go with this job. So there's a bunch of guys like that sort of waiting in the wings, and that's the way he wants it.
So stay right there for me, BC, because I really believe that Garrett McGuire has the highest ceiling of any of the position coaches on this staff, and he'll be the fastest at becoming a head coach someday. And I think that because of his work ethic, of how he builds relationships, and for just the people he has in his corner. And of course, he has the ultimate like trump card in his dad. But out of all the position coaches, whether they're on the 30 under 30 list or just some of the new names on this staff, who would be your way too early pick for becoming a head coach someday? One that would really excel here at Nebraska, to really make a name for themselves, to become a head coach first.
McGuire is an obvious one. It's cheating because I just did the assignment, but Rob Dvorak is
that'd be my pick.
Rule said that, like in the story I wrote about. I mean, he's just like he explained how he was sitting next to his wife Julie watching a spring press conference that Dvorak was doing, which is interesting in itself. The head coach does, I think, look in on those and see how guys respond and all that stuff. And he said he turned to his wife and said he's going to be a head coach. I mean, he's just got like it. He has just the way he responds to stuff and the way people respond to him. He's got that mentality where, yes, he can get after someone when he has to in a big way, but he's also got sort of a calming presence about him that people, I think, just kind of respect and rally toward. And if you want a shining example of what Rob Dvorak got done in a very small amount of time, look at MJ Sherman. MJ Sherman was very candid when he first got here that it was tough. You're at Georgia, you're on top of the mountain at Georgia, whether you're a first teamer or not, you're still around like championship football. And it's like the big leagues of college football right now. And he was definitely part of that culture. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go start over. It's way different here. They're building. That's a difficult thing for a player to do. And very quickly, within a week or two, Rob Dvorak had him to a position where he was like, that's my coach. Like, I believe in this guy. I know what he's saying can help me as a player. I'm not taking a step back because I'm not at Georgia as far as a player and the knowledge I'm going to get here because of the guy that's coaching me. So I thought that was a major endorsement for Dvorak when MJ Sherman said that.
Let me ask you something, BC, and you may need a couple of more 30, like those entrances into practice for media. But do you have a guy that you're kind of thinking in your head? Well, I know the general public and the media says this, but not so fast. Maybe it's not an indictment of what we think of him. Maybe it's that you think somebody else in that position may have something to say about the fact that we're just assuming he's going to be the guy. Is there a battle that you think, or somebody coming from the rear that you think you're at least that's a possibility that we're not seeing?
You're talking a player
positionally, yeah.
Man, that's good. I don't know what they're gonna. I don't know if this is where you're thinking, but I've always been intrigued about what they're going to do with the front five on the O-line because there's sort of 6 guys who always get brought up first. And there's, I think, been an assumption, maybe Prohaska's at left tackle, Ben Hart right tackle, and so on. Corcoran slides inside or something. I don't know. Corcoran was still working at tackle. He could be your left to start. I don't know. It's possible. Obviously, Prohaska's coming off the injury. And then Piper, I just think people overlook him all the time. And he's going to be in there somehow, some way. So that, I guess that's a mild interest, but all 6 of those guys are going to play. So I don't know that that's a very good answer. A guy that I think that is really good and is going to be very important that just doesn't get talked about is Gifford. I mean, I just feel like he's like when it comes to money time, it seems like he's going to be a guy who rises to the surface as like a main guy. And yet I feel like he gets talked about so little.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny? I actually wasn't thinking of him, and I'm dumb because just yesterday I was waxing poetic about how we were dismissive about Farmer. But when you look at the safety depth on those first 2 units, that's not. I mean, you're talking. You got Deshaun Singleton, you got Gifford, you've got maybe some combo of Samford and Omar Brown. It's not like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not like,
where's Corey Collier slide into it, you think?
He's
listed as a safety.
He's a tweener. I think you could put him in the slot. You could put him at corner. He's physical, right? So, like, he could be that 5th DB that kind of gets down into the box. Maybe Herzog could move and go back to playing that field safety. They're going to have to do some maneuvering there, in my opinion.
Tommy Hill has inserted himself back into the conversation for sure.
Yes, yeah. How good was his attitude? I was floored.
And that's a really interesting story, not only because what happened last year where he gets benched and then he moves to wide receiver, but if you remember at the beginning of spring,
he
was there right off the bat. He was one of the guys, and so like Rule, and that's the way Rule operates. The first practice, he's like, yeah, he's not here right now. I don't know if he used the word suspension with Hill or whatever. It was like very temporary because I think he was back by practice 2 or 3. But he brought up his name to us, and it was written in every story. And I think everybody's like, well, that's sort of the end of the Tommy Hill thing, like he got benched last year, and where is he now? And then by the end of the spring, you're realizing like, oh, he's very much here, and this staff gives opportunities for guys to mature, show up and say, hey, I want to be a part of this. I'm going to do this the right way. You're seeing that with Tommy Hill. You're seeing that with, not that it was any off the field stuff with him, but Raquan Buckley has a second life with this staff and who could play on the D line where, a year ago we were not talking at all about him. And he's one of those guys who people would probably whisper, is he going to go to the portal? Well, now he's, I think, a guy who you're counting on to maybe give you some snaps in that rotation.
BC, we appreciate the time, man. Thanks so much. We'll talk again next week.
So good, buddy. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Andy Kendeigh up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Yeah, I mean, right now we're just trying to concentrate on the operation, that we know what to do, we know what our identity is, and whether it's individual walkthrough or whether it's full team competition, we know how we're supposed to act. And so far it's been good, but we still got a long way to go.
Hey, welcome back. Coffee and Cream. Damon, Benning, Andrew Rogers. Happy to have you with us wherever you are joining us, whether that's on the radio, 590 ESPN here in town. We are live on Twitter, live on YouTube. the Hurrdat Sports YouTube page, and we're live from the H&H Chevrolet stage at Hail Varsity Club. Happy to be joined now by Andy Kendeigh, sports director at KETV, at A Kendeigh, KETV on Twitter. AK, good morning.
Morning, boys. What's happening? Happy Wednesday, hump day.
AK4 Channel 7. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Just woken up to a rainy day. You know, this is one of those days you're like, can I sneak in another half hour? Can I do another half hour? Do I really have to get up this
And then you wake up more tired.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Absolutely. I am ready to roll.
Just thank the Lord you're past the days of your girls getting up in the middle of the night because of a storm. Zoe's out walking around like the Walking Dead. It's like 2 o'clock. I'm like, really? What?
And the days that you all of a sudden get a third little child jumping in.
Oh, shoot, that's not happening.
Oh,
We could barely get 2, let alone 3. Hey. Hey,
so,
AK.
good to be back. Yeah, I was going to say, it's good to be back. Good to see you, DB, in Indy, and good to survive a shark attack.
Hey, yeah, that was so cool. I couldn't believe you got to see that. I felt like a child. I was like, Andy got to see somebody bitten by a shark. I feel nobody. You don't want to see anybody attacked by a shark, but like,
except for DB.
If it's gonna happen, I'd like to have at least seen what kind of shark it was. Man, I was kind of jealous.
I was going to say, cool is not the word I'd probably use, DB, but it was interesting. It was unnerving. You know, the water wasn't. I wouldn't call the water clear enough to like see the shark per se, but
I'd have figured it out.
The guy who got bit was he was in pretty good pace. It turns out, you know, I followed it up a little bit. A couple of stations around the south where we were at had some follow-ups. A guy was originally from Nashville, and he had 100 stitches. It turned out to be an 8-foot shark that bit him.
Wow!
The shark had the entire foot in the shark's mouth.
8-footer, huh?
Why did he put his foot in there?
Yeah.
Stop. And here I am thinking in my head like a true shark nerd, not very humane. I'm like, 8 feet's not even that big. That's a juvie.
You fit in good with our family. My family. I mean, I shot some video and we sent it along to the local affiliate that our Hearst company, our parent company, has one in Savannah. And I actually had to vet the audio to make sure there was no, let's just say the audio didn't have any comments that would embarrass the family.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. AK. So let me ask you something. When you look at the West and you listen to the coaches talk in Indy, I felt like a couple were interesting. I felt like Purdue got my attention, and I know it's just words, right? But Purdue got my attention. Illinois got my attention, and Iowa got my attention. If I didn't tell you that ahead of time, who kind of caught your eye and like, that's interesting?
Well, I think I'd lead off with Purdue. I guess I wasn't expecting, presentation matters in my opinion, and I was very impressed with Purdue and Ryan Walters, and I think that guy's got it.
Yeah, they got a good one.
When that hire was made, it was one of those crooked heads, like an eyebrow raise, like, huh? What? You're going to send a defensive guy to Purdue? Like, that doesn't really add up. And then you listen to him, you're like, oh, damn, Purdue's going to be something to deal with. You know, like, they're going to be a good team, in my opinion. And he's a guy that I think kids will want to play for. And that really jumped off the page of me. I agree. I think, the more, people just have a tendency to forget about Iowa because they've been so consistent. And after listening, I sat in on the entire 45-minute side session with Kirk Ferentz, and he just keeps plugging along. Now, whether or not that there's potential there for things to go sideways with the whole 7 wins, 25 point per game thing, and the bigger elephant in the room is the gambling investigation. Still, we saw.
I was surprised Coach Ferentz went there.
Yeah, but I think he went there.
Because of Shannon and Euless?
Yeah, because Shannon was supposed to be there.
Yep.
One of their stars was supposed to be there. And why they didn't like think that one through before releasing it. Like, oh yeah, he's involved in that investigation thing. He probably shouldn't go to Big Ten Media Day. That's a little puzzling. But
and maybe it came down late, AK, because Ulis went to. He's traveling with the basketball team.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe that's the case, and maybe we don't know the inner workings.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that was an interesting deal. And hearing him talk about, but I'll tell you, the guy who I thought was very impressive was Luke Fickell.
Oh,
unfortunately,
I agree. I agree. It's fantastic.
I was expecting, like the him not to be as dynamic as he was at the podium. He was engaging and personable, and
Coach Rule thinks he's a stud.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I've got Wisconsin brethren all over the Midwest, and they, at first when that was made, they were shocked. But the talk that Fickell says, he talks about winning championships, not Big Ten West championships, championships.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what the sites are in Madison. And whether or not they have the team to do it this year, that's remains to be seen. But the big thing I'm keeping an eye on is how that new offense is going to fit in that program and how they weave that new offense into that culture. It's going to be an interesting evolution, so to speak, in Madison.
AK, we started talking about standard on the show in the first hour, and Coach Rule is not just all about a standard, but in a way, everything seems to have a hidden meaning toward one goal, one objective, outside of brotherhood, because that's the obvious answer. What do you think the hidden meaning is by putting his team up in the dorms this fall? Like, what on-field issues can be solved by doing something like this so early?
I just think it's a throwback way to try to get your guys together, work through some chemistry issues off the field, early. And if you can get your guys closer in a way that will help you in November and October, then outstanding. I actually love the idea, and I think I love the idea because I don't have to do it.
Right.
And let's not mistake ourselves. It's not like the dorms that either we that we, when you say dorm life, you're thinking like unair conditioned and yeah, the rooms are small and tiny and whatever. But I mean, it's not like it's not like they're living in tents here. So it's kind of a cool thing here that they're doing an experiment. I love the fact that Rule keeps pounding on this, like put down your phone. Like he is adamant about that.
He even told it to the parent. He even told it to the parents Sunday. He said it. He said it 3 times.
And that's true. I think I think we all can look in the mirror too. Like put down your phones, engage with your kids, engage with your coworkers, engage because you look at life these days and you're looking down, right? I mean that's pretty much 80%, 90% of what you're doing when you're walking in public. And I think by doing this, it forces guys out of their comfort zone. His big line is, "We're trying to be comfortable being uncomfortable," and this is the first step. And I think I like the idea, and I think it may if that can help just a little bit, it's worth it. If you can help introduce a quarterback to a defensive lineman he didn't know, and maybe they'll play harder for each other. One of those deals. And I think it's a outstanding idea, not a new idea. But an outstanding throwback idea. I'm all for it.
Hey, so AK, let me get you out on this. Surprised or could see it coming that darn near everybody that takes the podium uses the same verbiage.
Oh man, talking points, huh? 1% better. I was going to do that yesterday, and I was like, you know what? I need more time for 1% better because everybody talks about it. Everybody talks about it. Yeah, there's no question these guys are well schooled and well versed. And it's going to be interesting to see how this camp goes. We've only got to see a little bit of portion on day one, but as we move forward and listen to these guys, we'll get more and more nuggets. It's interesting to see 1%. I'm going to try to be 1% better today, guys.
Yeah,
1% better.
Everybody should take that advice.
I know one thing. I do aspire to be elite. I'm not, and I need some better standards too. Okay.
That's right. You and me both, brother.
Thanks, AK.
You both, brother. See ya.
I aspire for dominant contact.
Dude, it's uncanny. Remember, common language, common goal.
We'll take a short break. More coffee and cream when we come back.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Did you find it interesting, DB, yesterday that after when we opened up the show, you were talking about being at camp and doing some installs for high school.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, a couple hours later, we turn the channel over to fall camp pressers, and they're talking about installs on defense. And I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah.
Am I living in this world? Like, do I know what's actually? Do they know what? Are they just listening to our show and
Dude,
then
like
taking information?
that's what happened in early
I'm
camp,
like-
man. It's install.
Like, who's following me?
Would you prefer to be a week 0 guy?
over what, a week?
Like regular season. Like, would you, for instance, like on the high school level, would you rather be prep in Bellevue West? Like, they're practicing because they play a week before everybody else, or do you want to start?
I think I'd rather be a week 0 guy.
Yeah.
I like being a week 0 because there's so much build up to the season anyway, and there's so much time that, at some point you think, okay, how much longer can we practice? Like, at what point can we just play?
Yeah.
Like, have a week of a game, prep for the game, and then play the game. So I think I'd rather play early and have a bye week later. I'm assuming that's how that works, right? You pick up a bye week.
Because this seems like, on the collegiate level, it seems like a long camp.
Mm-hmm. And it's even longer for other teams.
Because they don't play until the end of August. And I'm trying to remember, was it always 4 weeks? It seems long.
I can't answer that question.
I can't
don't know
see.
enough. I don't know enough to answer that question.
It just seems
what
long.
I do know is, take spring practice, for example. How long was spring?
Well, it got cut back. It used to be 20 practices. Mm-hmm. Now it's only 15.
Right. So if it were 20 in the spring,
yeah,
you could look at it as 20 here in the fall too, before the week of the game.
Yeah, and maybe they count backwards from the number of practices that you can have, because it's even changed at the high school level with quote unquote 2-a-days, like the amount of time that has to occur in between and what you can and can't do, pads, no pads, all that type of stuff.
Well, and coach is all about reps. Reps are what will get you there.
How about his line yesterday? Was it yesterday that he said, I told our young guys, some guys getting 5 reps today. You guys got 40,
Yep,
so
that was Monday.
So it's like, and I thought about it. That's a lot of reps.
Tons.
I just was thinking in my head, like if I was going through a station, like when I was back in college, let's say we were doing inside run, outside run, like that play script there would be 28, 29 plays in a script, and you'd be there and there were always 2 guys at a position. So you're going to get 14 reps in about 15 minutes is basically how it goes. 40 reps is a good workload when you're just talking team. That's quite a bit. Because you got to think that's not 7-on-7. It's not inside fun, or some people call it inside run or whatever, right? It's like that's a lot of reps, because remember they're out there for an hour 50, just the young guys, right? They split them in 2 units,
right? But wouldn't you rather have those reps? Like everybody getting around equal reps?
Totally. But I think one thing that they'll figure out in a hurry is there's this thing called rigor, right?
Oh, sure.
Where you want to go through it so you're seasoned and conditioned versus, man, I'm in kind of uncharted waters. Because you got to remember, a lot of times, unfortunately, some of the best players in high school don't always practice real hard, right? Whether it's got to keep my guy fresh, whether he may have been a little bit of a prima donna, whatever, right? Not all coaches hold folks to the standard is the standard. So you get to about your 7th or 8th practice in a row, not only is it a new environment, you may have never done it before.
Right.
Like that's just the reality.
Well, and Coach Knighton said this too yesterday. He said, what hurts a player most? What hurts the player the most? Not playing. Not playing, not being a part of it.
Yep.
Not being on the field. So that's why it's also uber important to keep these guys focused and on the right track. And it goes back to what we heard during the spring. Availability is the best ability. So if you're available, you'll get the reps. You'll get rewarded for the reps you take. Now I'm taking I'm plucking it out of Tony White's presser. You get rewarded for the preps that you do correctly, and you get punished for the ones you don't. And when I say punish, you get told, like, hey, that's not how you do it. This is how you do it. Do it again.
It's interesting because that's on the heels of the day before. Coach Rule saying, he's like, you're just going to have some guys that aren't going to invest in their playbook, and it's going to show. He goes, what do you do? Like, you move on. You invest in those guys. You invest in those guys that are, because they'll want to make a difference. And I'm just thinking to myself, it's almost exactly what we were talking about when I said he's the type of dude that is willing to walk away from a deal, but you still know he cares about you. There's just something. He's basically saying, hey, listen, it's on you, right? You want to get in your playbook, or do you want to be playing video? Like, you have the autonomy to do so.
Right.
There's going to be
my expectation.
Yep. There's going to be consequences. Do with it what you will. Like, some people just
because he's about free will.
So, do you remember his opening line about the portal in December? Oh man, portal's great, man. I love the portal. Two-way street. Gives players the autonomy to,
say goodbye or come to.
But either way, they have to do what? They got to own it. So it's like, you knew right away, like, the door swings both ways. That's cool. You got to own both. So it's weird how you know that a guy genuinely cares about you, but he's willing to walk away from the deal, but because he cares. Like, you have to really be defiant for him to wash his hands. But when he does, you better figure out how to get it right, because he's not coming back to that. Like, there's this thing called being contrite,
and he'll fight for you.
Oh, for sure.
He'll fight for
you. But
you.
In the same vein,
he wants you to fight for him.
He'll love you enough to let you go too. And sometimes that's really what it's about. It's kind of like the analogy that I give our players sometimes. I said, sometimes being tough is the willingness to get beat up. Like, that's toughness, right? Some people won't even go there. They'll only do things from an advantageous position. That's not tough, right? So, like, sometimes I think real love is the ability to tell you the things that you need to hear in order for growth to occur, and it may hurt your feelings. So, like that's hard, but it is out of love. Like, if I didn't love you, I wouldn't say anything because I don't care enough, right? It's just like, I gotta do your thing. Knock yourself out, right? Like, but if you care, there's going to kind of there's going to be that interaction. Now, you're going to reach a point of diminishing returns, though, right? You can say the same thing over enough where you're just like, yeah, they apparently aren't listening. Doesn't mean you don't love them anymore. It just means you don't want to waste your time.
And that goes back to that 10-80-10 thing we talked about yesterday.
Yeah, and I still love the fact that there's the 10% within that 80%, and then that percent's got to get to that to the next phase.
Well, every grouping has another 10%. Every single one, even within the 80, the top 10 has another top 10, and then that top 10 has another top 10, and that's how he kind of just works it.
Let me ask you something. This is a little off topic, but AK brought it up because you were talking about availability is the best ability, and obviously Noah Shannon was not available. Ulis is not available for Nebraska. We're dealing with a situation. I'm kind of speculating here, full disclosure, but I'm making the Iowa connection. What's going on? Shannon, the Iowa connection. Obviously, your guy that you know really, really well with Deckers, which kind of surprised me, especially the more that I read that deal.
Honestly, surprised me a lot.
Did it really? Good.
Yeah, I know his personality. I interact. It's not like I'm best friends with the kid, but I covered him for, gosh, was it 2 years? It was at least a year, and I got to know him pretty well that year. I mean, I did a spotlight on his cousin Cade, and I would do interviews with Deckers throughout the season, and he was so humble and down to earth. I remember asking him because he had the touchdown record coming up, and I'm like, hey man, like, it's approaching, like, he's like, I'm not worried about records, like, I'll talk about these at the end of the season. Like, that was kind of like his mentality. It was, no, football is this game right now is what's important. So by hearing all of the things that came out yesterday and how quickly it spiraled, I'm like, gosh, this doesn't sound like you. But then again, in Iowa, it's like, I can drive to the border right now and it's in my hands.
That's what I'm saying. That's where I was going to kind of go with this. Where is that? Are the rules? The whole standard is the standard. The rules thing. We talked about this with states where marijuana is legal, and coaches fight it all the time. Right? Kids come back, and
right.
You've obviously got testing you've got to do, and they'll say, hey, listen, in my household we do this, or in my state we do this. And coaches will say, hey, that's fine. You can't do it here. Like, at that age, the duality of balance.
Right.
Like I can do it here, but I can't do it here. I think is, and I know Coach Ferentz was one of those guys calling for kind of revamping of the protocol and the investigation across the board, right? It needs some tweaking. But that balance has got to be maddening for somebody that's 18 to, well, and some of these guys are 24 years old, but it's still not very old.
But at the same time, based on what is being reported in the article with Deckers and the article with the Iowa baseball player, like your parents can't be fueling this either. If that's what it ultimately comes down to being.
Do you make the connection when you look at Deckers and the family?
I don't, but at least in the story with, and I can't remember his name, but the Iowa baseball player,
Christopherson.
Yeah, he was sending bets to his mom to place for him.
Yeah.
Like somebody knows better in that situation. We'll put this on pause. We'll come back with it.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes.
No, it fits pretty well.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes.
First two nights been all right. I was in a suite before, so they're doing.
Yeah, so I think a part of that comes from Kristen. Part of that comes from Corey, our strength coach. Yes, this day. Defensive end, that's what I've been working at. Yes, this day, weather's been nice, which has been great for us, but this.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds.
Yeah, so this day, weather's been nice, which has been great for us, but as far as the team being locked in,
Coffee and Cream on Hail Varsity Radio with Andrew Rogers and Damon Benning.
Yes, this day, weather's been nice, which has been great for us. But as far as the team being locked in, it's been on a really high standard. And I think that, especially us from the D-line room, we're paying really close attention to every single rep and treating them like they're gold, because that's what it is. So that's been a key focus point for us in the D-line room, having our key and playing fast. So the energy, the effort, it's got to continue to go up each and every single day, and we got to continue to raise our standard.
There's that word again. That word standard. Hey, look, if and I'm sure Hunter Deckers isn't using the Dyer Law team, but if you are in interest of, or
my guys.
if you've been hurt in
And
personal
gals.
injury accident, you can count on the Dyer Law team to provide you with a helping hand when you need it, no matter what you're dealing with. That's 402-393-7529, the phone number, or visit Dyer.law to chat with trusted professionals about your personal injury claim. That's Dyer with a Y.law. Gosh, you know, I was going back and doing some research here, DB, because I knew I had talked about it before, but I needed to figure out the organization, and I found it. So there's an organization out there that polices issues like this for schools so that they can immediately be notified if somebody is a student athlete at their university is gambling, and that is U.S. Integrity. That's the company that I was looking for. And it kind of all started after, you know, the allegations started in Iowa a while back, and then it was the Alabama baseball story, and so
it's been all over in the NFL. They seem to have a lot easier time doing it, but
right, and it's just kind of it's really starting to spin out of control. But going back to this Iowa State situation, you know, the thing that really gets, and it's all accusations at this point, that no punishment has been handed out yet for Hunter Deckers. But the thing that really just doesn't settle right with this whole situation is that he placed a bet on a college football game of Iowa State.
State's, yeah.
And yes, there were 26 other total bets of Iowa State sporting events, but one of them was placed on an Iowa State football game when Deckers was, I think he was the backup quarterback at the time, which leads me into another thing that could come up with this, and with it all being illegal, is that he's not of the age of 21.
Mm-hmm.
So these
because that was back in 2021, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's another thing that had me thinking, well, how could this be his account if he's not 21? How does DraftKings allow an account of his, with his name on it, if he's not 21? So that's how that's when I thought, okay, that's why he's pleading not guilty, because maybe it's his parents' account, but bets were placed on his phone and they could trace it back to his phone, but it was his parents' information that he was using. Now, I'm not sure of those details, but that just had me thinking, that's where my brain was going. Nonetheless, this is a point to where, you know, Deckers is probably sitting back and reflecting. He may not play football again.
Mm-hmm.
He may not play college football ever again, especially if this does come out as true, because the NCAA recently updated its penalties for student athletes who violate its gambling policy. And those who bet on their own games or other sports at their own school face potential permanent loss of college eligibility. That's it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's told to these student athletes enough early on, especially in states that allow sports gambling, because it's such a prominent thing. Look, I remember we had a conversation a while back with professional athletes, and I had brought up the points with U.S. Integrity and all these things, how they can't better police it, to bet on their sport but not their own team. And as time went on, it's easy to know why that's not the case, but in this case for college athletes, I feel like this always sparks, or this conversation sparks every time we hear a story like this. Why can't collegiate athletes or whoever bet on professional sporting events? And that always comes back up around this time.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a couple of things for me. One, I think they should be able to, because of U.S. integrity and what you can track nowadays, that you should be able to bet on the Super Bowl if you want to, that you should be able to bet on the World Series with your friends, that shouldn't violate any of those.
Is this amateur if you're an amateur?
No, if you're 21,
period.
If you're a college athlete, that you should be able to bet on.
So amateur, like you're in college. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm at.
I got you.
So that's what I'm saying.
Okay,
that if it's a
21, so 21 is the trump, not whether you're in college
legal.
or not.
Right. Well, so for one, you're legal at 21.
Okay.
But then it falls into, if you're still a student athlete, I don't see an issue with why you can't bet on the Super Bowl. Now, I know people will say, well, what if they have friends that have gone on to play for that team?
Fair enough.
But I think about this too, and this is just a hypothetical. It obviously is not true, but take a former athlete like yourself. You know a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could send a text message too, but why doesn't that shouldn't affect you, right? But collusion is a thing that could cause your account to be banned. It could cause a lot of legal troubles that could follow that too. So collusion is just everywhere at that point. So I don't rest on that issue with student athletes, but where the problem ultimately lies is when you bet on your own school. And I don't care if you go to Iowa and you want to bet on Caitlin Clark. Like some part of me thinks, why can't you do that? Like, okay. But another part is, well, you can't just stop your own sport because you know too much. You have friends. You're at the university.
You know, what's interesting is our guy, I don't know if this is naive or not. I'm totally spitballing and thinking out loud. So I don't even know if I would feel comfortable. Like, let's say, let's say I want to know, hey, Minnesota. So pick a guy I know, like Teddy Prohaska.
Mm-hmm.
How would I even broach the topic? Right? Would I just outthink him? Hey, so how's the health, or I don't even know if you'd feel comfortable doing that. And now, is it easier if you're peers?
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's say, your buddy Mark, he's playing at Michigan. You're just casually having that conversation. Like, I just think there's something about, I'm probably overthinking it. I just think there's something about the level of respect that would trump the potential to win 20 or 30 or whatever bucks, right? Because anything too crazy gets crazy, but
right. And in this
case,
there's
there's things that I speculate about or that I wonder about. I probably could ask, but I don't, just because of the relationship, right? Hey, Coach Cook, or hey, Coach Bolt or Coach Rule, right? You just don't go there, right?
But you could, because you have those connections.
But would you?
I would not. But if you're peers, I think it's a lot easier.
Is that too myopic?
I think it's easier, though, for a young person to do that with another young person than it is with an adult doing it with another adult.
So the weird thing is, though, how did Bama get so out of control?
Yeah, that was a story.
Because that was an adult to adult, right? And that was a coach.
Yeah, that's where my conspiracy theory mind goes to. Oh, he was in trouble with bad people or
whatever. But it wasn't enough money, really.
But maybe they started small and were like, okay, this is part of.
Wait, what was the total? Do you remember what the wager was?
Wasn't it close to 200K, or they tried 250 and they
that is enough money. I'm tripping. For some reason I thought it was 2.
I don't think so. I think it was. It was a high amount of money, but the book only took a certain amount.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the difference.
They wanted
the
intent, a big chunk.
The intent versus,
and that's what flagged the whole thing. Was, why are you trying to spend $250 on this game? And then we can only allow, say it was $60,000. Say they could only allow $60,000 on the bet. Well, yeah, we're gonna probably freeze this payout while we do an internal investigation.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I wonder. I go back to one of your original points, where if they understand the consequences of whatever the discipline's going to be, is it enough to curb the behavior even in states where it's legal?
Mm-hmm.
right? Like that's ultimately kind of, I think, what you're dealing with, isn't it?
I think so. I don't think enough know that. Well, at least they do now, because it's all in the news. And if I'm playing football at Maryland and I'm seeing what's happening at Iowa, I know, oh, thank goodness it wasn't me, right? That's what you're thinking. But it could have been you, right? It could have easily been you, because no one was telling you, no one was coaching you up to say, don't do this.
What'd you say, Liquid?
Oh, I was just wondering, I was just thinking out loud, how far back can they go back, and, can this be an issue? I mean, because we're looking at 2 years right now from 2023 to 2021. I mean, or is this stuff that we're going to see 5 years down the line, where it's going to be like, well, this happened 7 years ago in 2021? I mean, is this something we're just going to continually see?
I don't think so, but I think it was when sports betting became legal in Iowa, it was about when Deckers was going to college. Right. It's only been there for like 2 or 3 years now.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Yeah.
So because it was so new,
I wonder why DraftKings. So
it was new, and maybe they didn't understand
DraftKings
what they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of pulling a shill and only releasing, like, generally speaking, what a report said, DraftKings said, we're not just going to talk to you at all, because DraftKings DraftKings refused comment.
Well, and I wonder too if that was because if it is Decker's account, he's a minor. At least when those bets were being placed.
Yeah. And I mean, not to get all on Scott and Jamie. I'm sure they're nice parents, but
I don't know him enough. I met him once. I don't know him enough.
Isn't that so?
That whole situation's just weird to me.
Doesn't pass the smell test.
Yeah.
It
just sounds like you're latching on to whatever you have left. Like, how can we?
You're talking about from Decker's standpoint.
Yeah.
So you think he's guilty as all get out?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I know it's disappointing. Yeah, I feel you.
The excuse doesn't make sense to me, and I don't think it makes sense to a lot of people. Why would mom and dad be betting on your account? That doesn't make sense, because they have phones too. They live in Iowa.
So, but wasn't it just the opposite? Like, he was operating under the guise of their identity.
I took it that he had the account, and he said the parents were placing bets.
All right, Shane, are you ready to read this or listen?
Okay.
It says the affidavit alleges he bet on Iowa State football games against Oklahoma State on October 23rd, 2021. Deckers did not play in the Big 12 contest, and the affidavit does not reveal which team or what type of bet he made on the game, which the Cyclones won 24-21. The affidavit alleges Deckers was under 21, the legal betting age in Iowa, when most of the bets were placed, but that he disguised his identity with the help of his parents, Scott and Jamie Deckers.
So did he use his own phone? So what is it? He used his own phone to place the bets in the name of his parents, or did his parents now claim that they used his account to place these bets?
So I'm guessing it's never been his account, because if he's not 21,
there was no way he could.
He doesn't have an account, right? So my question is he saying?
So he signed into his dad's account?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
And he did,
right? Like
that would make sense. That would make sense.
So I'm trying to work backwards, because I'm thinking, is he like, hey, mom, what's your guys' login again? And he did it from his phone, or he's like, hey, you guys have a login, and he sent them the information. I don't think it doesn't read, without reading the actual affidavit, it doesn't read like he himself had an account.
Right.
But this wording is a little interesting. But that he disguised his identity with the help of his parents, Scott and Jamie Deckers.
Yes. So that would be, hey, Dad, ISU 2.5 against Oklahoma State. Like, that's a lock this week. We're feeling good on the football field.
Yeah.
And thinking he could get away with that because
he was the backup. How
and
did the rest of the athletes get caught? Right? Because it was, I don't know if rampant was the word. We're still in the teens with the number of athletes that they found between the two campuses, right?
Right. Yeah, and
so I'm reluctant to use the word rampant. I don't
like. how do you know that Deckers was sending this information to mom and dad? If you can only track mom and dad placing these bets.
I wonder if I sat Coach.
So it would have to be
you
on
talk
his
to Coach
phone.
Ferentz, like how would he modify the investigative tools or the resources, like because I think he's looking for modification, right? In terms of how it's going. I just don't. Football, in my opinion, would be very difficult to fix of the team sports.
Yeah.
Right? Because, I mean,
unless you have the quarterback in your back pocket.
Well, there's plenty of stories, I don't know, true or not, of early in the 80s, Nebraska players getting involved with agents and games not going according to plan. So maybe you can get to a particular player, because I can't confirm or deny that, and I mean that with all seriousness. But there's lots of stories out there about Nebraska in the Orange Bowl when they played Miami. And the weird thing about that is Coach Osborne is so, and people sometimes, they make fun of him for, being stuck or too conservative or whatever. But from his vantage point, he's been at this a long time, and he has been dead set against dealing with agents. He's dealt with the integrity of the game for a long, long time. And obviously he has his values, and I'm not using this. You have to listen and not hear. I'm not picking a side in what I'm saying. I agree or disagree with once you're of legal age and you get to do what you want to do, right? I'm not telling you what and what not to do with your money. What I'm saying why I think it's been so tough in the state of Nebraska with sports is solely about his experience with gambling and finances that involve sports and anything that isn't pure about the sport, at least according to his vantage point, because the history goes deep. I mean, you're talking 40 years of stuff like this, right? So I think Nebraska's always going to have an uphill battle, at least for the next couple of years. But I say all that to say, if you knew the ramifications, if you were caught, would that be enough of a deterrent? Because for whatever the reason, when we put laws in place, people still break the law, right? But you only have laws for those few that can't seem to abide by any rules, right?
And I think because before nobody fell victim to it yet, that's why it was easy to say, oh, I'll risk it. I'll gamble a little bit. It's only $10. Like it's only $10 on,
Yeah, because I saw in the story, was it?
It was 366 bets, but it totaled $2,800.
So how about the guy from Iowa State that had 113
Yeah, that
bets?
was crazy.
113 bets, and it was like $3,000.
Yeah, I thought it was closer to $4,000.
I did the math. It's like $27.20 per bet.
So you're placing roughly $25, just say a bet.
Right. I mean,
it's more than I play.
It's like,
but then again, I do parlays.
That's not that much, though.
I mean,
to a college athlete,
not if you're my mom playing the Derby.
I mean, to for that being the risk.
Well, and now you have to really push this too and say, look, your NIL deal is on the line. If you choose to do this,
they do have more disposable income.
Your career, though, as a football player, is on the line. Like you
Not
make
worth
the
the
move.
risk.
You make the move. I wouldn't recommend it, but you make the move. Now that we've seen reports come out on multiple players, I think you're going to see a lot of people start to panic and be like, uh-oh. Please don't dig up my stuff, or thank God I didn't do it.
I'm thinking about this just out loud. I'm like, how can the NFL feel good about punishing its? So this is funny because the NFL is going to punish guys, right? We saw multiple suspensions just last
6
week.
6 games a year, whatever.
Even though their partnership is with, they've got a ton of gambling
like
partners.
FanDuel,
DraftKings, whatever, right? when you're at a paid job, and maybe this is just real life, some things other people can do that you just can't, right? Like you reach a point where there's this totem pole, there's this hierarchy, there's for profit where, yeah, I know what we're doing, but you can't. You can call us hypocritical all you want, but our partnerships help pay for a lot of the things that you guys are privy to. Like, are we good there? Yeah, we can do it, and we'll have these partnerships. You just need to have better discipline and get off site when you're going to go do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because it sounds weird. It sounds weird, but so could like Matt Stafford be at his house and make a wager as long as it's not on the Rams?
Right. Like if it's the World Series winner.
And be fine. But if he's in the locker room, you can't make a wager at anything.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem like it would be that hard to do.
So, by the way,
right?
Most of my bets take place. Well, at least I craft up my bets at home, and then I have to drive to the border.
That doesn't seem like I wouldn't think hypocrisy when I hear that. I wouldn't think, oh man, Commish, you got these deals going with DraftKings and FanDuel, and I can't bet in a lot. Like I don't. That doesn't seem like a very plausible argument either, right? Just go home.
Mm-hmm.
Who's held responsible, the player or the parents?
In the Decker situation,
was what's going on in Iowa?
Yeah.
Oh, for sure, the player.
The player for sure.
Is
but
that
the parents hold responsibility here?
I don't know what their role is, though.
But if their role is what is being accused,
aiding and abetting, for lack of a better term,
is it different if it was brought up 2 years ago compared to now when the player was underage?
Are you asking me how much does him being underage at the time have to do with it?
Impact the parents versus player?
None for me. That's why I wanted clarity on your distinction of
okay.
If I'm above 21,
mm-hmm.
it doesn't have anything to do with me being in college. It's just if I'm 21, I should get to do what I want to do.
Right.
That's what you were.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you're 21, no, Shane, I don't think it matters.
I don't think it matters either. I think what needs to happen now is some type of crash course. I mean, we take courses all the time on sexual harassment in the workplace.
We had courses on media interviews.
Right. All that stuff.
Yeah.
Like that, there needs to be a course for staying off of sports betting websites.
So that needs to be brought up and be number one. I mean, pretty much so. Like one of the first things that you're.
It has to be a part of your orientation.
One of the first things that you know, this has to be it.
It has to be a part of it.
Gotcha.
When you sit down in team meetings, if you sit all the freshmen down one day, you go over a PowerPoint, whatever. One of the coaches, the director of player, development, whatever, is going through a slideshow of everything to be a successful student athlete. And one of those slides has to be stay off of DraftKings.
26 athletes in Iowa, 15 at Iowa State involved in the investigation. Ferentz said during his presser at the Big Ten Media Days that not a large number of Iowa's football players are involved. Yada, yada, yada. Ferentz said the uncertainty of the status of players involved hasn't changed the planning for the season. Long story short, we don't know what the outcome is going to be. We're still doing what we're doing. I don't think anyone condones gambling, especially in the college game. I do think that being said, I have learned a lot the past 2 months just about gambling. I never really paid attention to it other than we signed a form probably saying – this similar to what we signed when I was playing. Interesting. So even coaches aren't that well aware.
2 for you up next.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 5 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 1 minute. Rogers and Benning will be back in 30 seconds. Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
All right, welcome back. Let's have some fun 2 for You time.
Okay.
2 for You presented by Dingman's Collision Center. Dingman's is your one-stop shop for all your car needs. They have a pretty awesome give back program where they have 3 different ones to choose from. Community Alliance, the second, the Collective for Hope, and the third, Epic for Girls. And Epic for Girls was something that Darcy reached out to us a couple weeks back and said, like, hey, let's make this kind of like the center of us, like going forward, like really mention our give back programs. And she really wanted us to, talk about Epic for Girls. And there's, all the reason for it it levels the playing field for girls of color in sports, and it serves as the umbrella organization to amplify sports programming. Just a really, really great nonprofit, brings attention to the issues in inequity in sports, addresses incidences of violence occurring in the world of youth sports here in Omaha. That's what Digman's is all about, though. Like, that's who they stand for. They stand for the community. And that's why we, both of us, support them, because they support local.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, 100% Team Digman.
And we know Shane's Team Digman as well.
And the community, right? That's the big deal.
Big deal. All right, we got Trent on line 1. Trent, bring him on, Shaner.
I forget how to play this game.
I'll re-explain.
I remember. I remember how to play this game.
Trent, good morning.
Good morning. How are we doing?
Hey,
Good,
good.
Trent,
Okay, so pick 2 people, Trent.
All right. I'm going back to Old Faithful. I'm going DB and Andrew.
All right. Now, we before our break, I had hit the skids. We were not vibing, but I'm back on it again.
DB, 1 or 2?
I'm ready.
1 or 2?
2.
All right, let's go with 2. Shane, you got music? Oh, I appreciate you.
I got music. I got Trent on the line. We got Damon. He knows what to do. We're good to go. We got Dingman sponsoring this. It couldn't be better, could it?
DB, ready?
A couple right answers would help.
A food that you often get brain freeze eating.
Okay.
Something from your ex you would get rid of when you are starting a new relationship. Something from your ex you get rid of when starting a new relationship.
Are you serious?
I got mine.
All right, Matt, go back to that one, but go ahead.
Beside a clock, something in your house that has numbers on it.
Okay.
And something people lie about on an online dating profile.
Number of teeth. Miley Cyrus. I got to go back to number 2.
Back to number 2. Something from your ex you would get rid of when you are starting a new relationship.
Okay.
All right, I got my 4. Shane, did you play in spirit over there?
Was I supposed to write stuff down?
There he is. All right, Trent, playing for a Hail Varsity Club gift card. 2 of them get you a $10 gift card, and then we can double down after that point. DB, you ready?
I'm ready. I'm going 4 for 4.
Let's do this. A food that you often get a brain freeze eating. 3, 2, 1.
Ice cream. Ice cream.
There's 1.
That's what I had too.
Yeah, that's a lie.
I did. I had ice cream.
I doubt it. You probably said slushies.
He said Spanish.
What are those little slushy things with the...
Stop.
Slush puppies?
Flavor ice.
Something from your ex you would get rid of when starting a new relationship. 3, 2, 1.
Pictures.
Let's go. All right.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Trent, there's 2. You want to double down?
Always.
All right. That's my guy.
That's my choice.
Beside a clock.
That's a bad choice.
Beside a clock, something in your house that has numbers on it. 3, 2, 1. Microwave.
Wow.
There's 3. Trent, are we going 4 for 4?
How much did you get? 40
But
bucks?
isn't that
$40 if we get this next
Isn't
one.
that a clock though? Isn't
What?
the clock the
No,
numbers
we're
on the
on the last
microwave the
question.
clock?
No, there's numbers on the microwave you type in to like say, hey, I want to heat up my
30
pasta
seconds,
for 30
45
seconds.
seconds.
Yeah. Come on.
So we're
Shane.
3 for 3.
We're 3 for 3. Trent, the last question, the last prompt at least, is something people lie about on an online dating profile. Do you want to take the $20 gift card or do you want to risk it for 40?
Oh, no. Go 40. That's an easy one.
Oh, it's an easy one. Yep,
Yeah.
way to jinx us.
Skin color.
I don't know what to play after.
You can't take me anywhere. It's good to be back.
Oh, something people lie about, DB, on an online dating profile. 3, 2, 1. Wait. Oh! 5! Dang it!
Oh, God.
Weight was the right answer. That's a better answer than height. But then again, I know a ton of people that lie about their height. Like, oh,
Not
I'm
like
6'2".
weight.
That was a 50-50 shot. It had to be one of them.
Fudge. I was
I'm
gonna
defeated, man.
So do you know what? That height wouldn't have even been my number 2. Age would have been my number 2.
Ooh, that's a good one too. Yeah, weight's a better answer than height. I'll give you that.
Height. I'm not gonna pound you because you said it was not good. All right, fine. Trent, I tried.
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
Dang it.
Hey,
Man, we
that
were
was fun.
so hot there. Oh,
Trent, we're gonna get you paid next week.
I like it.
All right, buddy.
Appreciate you, Trent.
We'll make it happen.
Man, we had 4.
All right. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks.
ILL.
Do you know how much food he could have eaten for $40?
Yeah,
I had scale, by the way, instead of microwave.
Okay.
That's not bad.
I don't know if everybody has a scale.
Gosh darn it, Andrew.
Height?
I wrote height down really fast too. I thought that was a for sure answer.
If I would have been going with you, I would have had height.
Oh, thanks, Shane. What would you put on a dating profile? 6'3"?
Yeah, probably about 6'3". I mean, I would, because I'm 6'5", I got to.
Now usually me and Kurt are vibing, but he's on me. He said height all day.
Oh,
women are height snobs.
That is true. They're like, if you're under,
Kurt, are you
they're 5'10".
Are you
If you're
serious?
5'7", I'm not dating you. I'm gonna put 6 foot.
Man, I may have to
Well,
reconsider
they are
our
height
relationship.
snobs. That's
Well, because they want to wear heels when they go out.
They won't leave me alone because they want all the height.
Wait, they
Height
won't leave you
snob.
alone.
Who won't leave you alone?
All the girls, because they want all the height.
Here we
And
go.
here,
Hey,
and I mean,
so what do you say on your
I gotta
grinder or whatever you
I
do?
gotta-
Like, what are you what?
Okay,
6'1"?
skin color.
I gotta aim low
What,
when you
man?
swipe left.
Oh, whoops! Is this thing on?
I gotta aim low.
Hey, I don't judge. What difference? What difference does it make?
Yeah, you're right.
It's 2023, bro. Sorry, Shane.
Sorry,
I'm
Shane,
sorry.
you were
What were you
I
saying?
thought it was 2021 and we were betting on games.
That totally was an
Oh.
accident. I forget this thing is on. Shane, we good?
We're good.
Shane, you and DB play. We got about 2.5 minutes.
Do I got to write these down?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you do.
He's do I have to write these down? Shane, you just need to get to 5'2", buddy.
Oh. Now it is about height.
You can't put that on a dating app or anything because it doesn't go that low.
Shane, you ready?
Yeah.
Under race and ethnicity. Other.
All right, guys. A muscular celebrity that would probably have trouble finding clothes in his size.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
If there was a school teaching how to be an NFL quarterback, which living but retired quarterback would be the principal?
Okay.
Shane, you ready?
Yeah.
Sequels excluded. Name a movie with a number in the title.
Sequels excluded?
Yeah.
So you can't say like Home Alone 2.
But you got to name one with the number in the title? Wow. I don't know.
That's tough.
That is tough.
I only have one in my head right now.
Dang, Rue.
Dang, Ruru.
I mean, let's come back to that
Dang,
one. All right.
Ruru. All right, the last one. What is the first thing you're likely to get asked at your high school reunion?
How'd you turn out to look like that?
Why are you so tall? How'd you become so handsome?
No, nobody's asking you that shit. I'm just saying. A movie with a number in it?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to come back to this because it's only 30 seconds. Okay, I got it, Shane. Just came out. It's easy.
What, like the Meg 2?
And it's got his guy in it.
Uh-huh. All right, here we go.
It's got my guy in it?
Ah, stop.
Let's
Just play the game.
do it quickly.
Trent would have been
All right.
hungry.
A muscular celebrity that would probably have trouble finding clothes in his size. 3, 2, 1.
Rock.
Good one. If there was a school teaching how to be an NFL quarterback, what living but retired quarterback would be the principal? 3, 2, 1.
Brady.
Sequels excluded. Name a movie with the number in the in the title. 3, 2, 1. X.
65.
X.
Fast and Furious X just came out.
Okay. First thing you're likely to be asked at your high school reunion. 3, 2, 1.
What do you do?
What do you do?
Was that what you wrote down, Shane?
Yeah, it's right here.
3 out of 4.
That's not too shabby. Not
Good
too
job,
shabby.
Shane. Swipe left.
Bruce Feldman up next.
Play now.
Rogers and Benning will be back in 4 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 3 minutes. Rogers and Benning will be back in 2 minutes. Rogers and Coffee and Cream with Rogers and Benning on Hail Varsity Radio.
Welcome back, Coffee and Cream in the morning on Hail Varsity Radio, powered by Currency. DB, Andrew Rogers, happy to have you with us, and happy to be joined to close out the show today by Bruce Feldman, senior college football writer for The Athletic, at Bruce Feldman CFB on Twitter. Bruce, good morning. Thanks for taking the time.
Good morning, guys. Good to be on with you.
Bruce, as I told you in Indy, one of my faves, man. Good to catch up again. How you been?
I'm doing good. It was great seeing you guys, and we're right around the corner. We actually have the Huskers. A couple of years ago, my crew did. It was actually the only year, obviously, Mel Tucker was at CU, and it was is fascinating to see how much those two programs have changed. Obviously, dramatically different coaches. Big Noon's going to get that. It'll be Deion's home opener. I think it's week 2 technically, and I can't wait.
So let's stay right there for a little bit of a different reason, because when Tucker took the podium, the first thing that I thought, he's under control, right? And I was thinking, man, $10 million, they're picked to finish 5th. Did you see, maybe not the 10 mil per year, but after you get done with this broadcast, you hear the presser of Colorado, did you see Tucker headed for the trajectory that he was on in such a short span?
I mean, the wild thing in that weekend was, when you do a game, you're around, especially with the home team, you're around them a bunch. And I was really impressed by how he handled everything, because I think, as you guys remember that game, Nebraska jumps out to a lead. It's at halftime, and I'm talking about Tucker coming out of the locker room to start the third quarter, and he rattled off this little grocery list of things he felt like they needed to do to win the game. And sure enough, they did pretty much everything he said. And then I remember talking to them, they rushed the field. I mean, Nebraska had a great turnout, for that game. There was, I don't know what it felt like, 50-50 at one point of, red in that stadium. And then they stormed the field. There was all this enthusiasm of what was going to be. And I remember thinking, he's talking about how he has to rebuild the roster and completely overhaul like the body types. And I'm just thinking, you're not going to be able to get the measurables you're talking about in terms of height and length and all that stuff with the athleticism you need at CU, because you're going to be competing with everybody else, and they're not going to go to CU. For that. You just won't get enough of them. And he wasn't there very long, obviously. Then he had he had a really, huge breakout year there, and then the money goes big, and then obviously last year they cratered, and we'll see if he can get it back. But I mean, I definitely was a believer in him from the time we were around him, just like, all right, there's something here. The other question is, can they sustain it? Because that's, I know they talk like, okay, we think our roster is better than the team that won 11 games a couple of years ago, but they got a long way to go to get back to it. Now that Michigan and Ohio State, we think Penn State's really talented. That's a deep division they're in this year.
Bruce, you wrote a really nice piece on The Athletic regarding Michigan, and if you missed it, go back and check that out. It was all about how, the stars don't matter approach, and we talked a lot about that during the height of recruitment for Nebraska up in this area, because, it's all about fit and development at Nebraska. As for teams at the top, though, they can make it all about the stars because they're talented enough to compete for titles right now. Yes, it's about fit there too, but talent has the ability to supersede fit in a way. So a couple of questions to follow here. One, what percentage of players who don't enter as 5 stars do you think become 5 stars once they're excelling in college? And then a second question to that, do stars only start to matter for teams at the top, those that constantly have to compete with the best of the best recruiting classes in the nation?
It's a great question. Like my colleague Max Olson, about the Nebraska grad, does a really smart and in-depth piece every year where he re-ranks what the recruiting class really should be and compared to what it was going in. And Michigan, for example, a couple of years ago, that he found that they had the number 3 overall class. Well, it was number 22 when it was coming out of high school. And I think you see plenty of examples of guys who, either were a little under the radar, or maybe, it's hard to, I did my own kind of digging on some of this, in a different way, probably like 6 months ago, where it was on looking at who were the NFL All-Pros, the best of the best. We're not just talking about guys who had really good college careers. We're talking about guys who turned out to be elite NFL players. And the average star ranking of offensive guys compared to defensive guys was dramatically different. You had a bunch of 5 stars who turned into 5 stars on the, in the NFL. Whereas on the offensive side, it was like the average star ranking was like a 3-star. You had a lot of guys. You look at it like a Lane Johnson, who's arguably the best offensive lineman in football. Had been a 0-star. He was high school quarterback, and then bounced around positions at Oklahoma and grew into that spot. Justin Jefferson was a 2-star out of high school, and he blew up at LSU. But then you'd see other guys, we can count the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen. I mean, there's a lot of guys who really blossomed under the radar. At least offensively, it happens. And one of the things that, when I talk to a lot of coaches about this, they were like, well, defense is a lot more reactive. And so some of the stuff you see in high school that and I think the online recruiting guys do a really good job. I'm not trying to be critical of it, that they're going to be things that they miss, because quite honestly, people's bodies changed a lot from 15, 16, 17 to what they are as grown-ups. I think there's a lot of intangible pieces to this. And so I'm not trying to, produce the show, but I'm like, I think one of the guys who's really, really got a good feel for the evaluation and development is the guy that just got hired to be the head coach there. I mean, you look at what he did at Temple, you look at what he did at Baylor, and that stuff bodes well because he has found guys. I mean, Dave Aranda came close to, having a playoff team a couple of years ago with a lot of guys that rule and that staff evaluated and developed.
Bruce, let me ask you this: of the three guys that went in a row that were all first-year guys, because I thought they were all impressive in their own right, with Walters and then Rule and of course Fickle. Who was the most believable? Isn't the word, but who were you like when you listen to him? You're like, yep, I could totally see that happening based on what they said in terms of having success.
Well, I think it's Walters to me is the wild card. This is the first time as a head coach, right?
He was so good at the podium, though.
He was, and I think I spent some time with him off to the side for a while, and he's young, but he has a lot of presence to him.
Yeah.
I think he's learned from a lot of really good people. I think he's also the one who's, I don't want to say he doesn't have the pressure level of the other two. Like Luke Fickell takes over the best situation. I think they have a lot of experience. They landed a good transfer quarterback who fits with what they do. They have a big time running back. I still feel like they can do a lot of what made Wisconsin really good, and then they can tweak a lot of stuff with what Phil Longo likes to do on offense and be a lot more aggressive in the pass game. The hardest one for me to figure, and honestly, it's just because myself and so many other people were so wrong with how it played out with Scott Frost.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, we talked about that, right?
Yeah, it's just like, I trying to remember, and I'm sure there's plenty of examples of this, but like where in recent years where I felt like, oh, this is going to go so well, and it just didn't for all sorts of reasons. Whereas, and I'm not saying you can't win it at Nebraska, because I think, and I'm trying to think if I want to say it like this, but I think the situation that Rule walks into or takes over in Lincoln is much better than the one he took over in Waco. Because in Waco, that place was toxic when he got there, and I just felt like where I have a lot of respect for him as a coach, but what really kind of is like a bigger edge to me is I think that situation he followed not just the Briles, the whole deal there was just ugly on all sorts of levels, and then Jim Grove, who's a very well respected coach, has been at Wake Forest and went in there to took over that staff. And I remember seeing there were times where even Jim Grove, who like I said, it was a really decent man, but there were times where he could step in it because just people were so on edge of how this thing was set up, and it was, like I said, it was toxic. And Rule went in there and he said all the right things. And as far as I can remember, there was never like a moment where he said the wrong thing to inflame the wrong stuff. And I think that's really hard to do. And so, and he got that place going. Now look, it was the Big 12, no disrespect to Oklahoma at the time, but like the Big 12 wasn't as top heavy as the Big 10 is right now with Ohio State and Michigan, but I don't know. I know I'm not specifically answering the question of. I think they're all just very different in how they approach it.
Yeah.
You know?
Bruce, quickly here, only got about 30 seconds. If I give you a start bench cut of 3 of the new quarterbacks in the Big Ten West, Jeff Sims, Tanner Mordecai, and Cade McNamara, start bench and cut them.
I definitely would start Mordecai. You know, pretty amazing at that fitting the whole fitness system. I don't know what to expect. Jeff Sims, I feel enough people at Georgia Tech who are like very skittish and wonder how he will. I've heard good things about him in Lincoln so far, but just like, and he be the guy that is a real leader for this team going through. I mean, the people at Georgia Tech have those questions. Physical tools are definitely there, so we'll see. I mean, it's not, you know, this is a fresh start for him. We'll see how he does with it.
Fantastic.
Bruce, we appreciate your time, man. Thanks so much. Hopefully we can do this again soon.
Sounds great, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
That's Bruce Feldman. And that'll do it for today's show. You know,
he's got a cool voice.
I got to go home and just drink a zip line. Today kind
Have
of took it
two.
out of me. I don't know, dude. I'll have an Acres Ale. How
With a
about
little,
that?
with a little guava?
You know, brewed with Nebraska corn or the guava one. Yeah, maybe I'll shotgun the Acres Ale and then enjoy the can opener.
Shotgun?
Yeah, why not? It's 9:55. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. I just need some Nebraska running through me.
Or noon. Is it noon to cut off?
Maybe. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Thanks for joining us. If you missed anything, catch us wherever you get your podcast. That's Apple, that's Spotify, that's Google, that's Amazon. Coffee and Cream. Back again tomorrow.